I think I've pissed off somebody important. If we screw this guy with $1 million a month in legal fees, we get $500,000 a month. So let's just tie him up with this for 4 years. It was a unique experience. I would argue that an Eastern European jail has got to be one of the worst in the world, wouldn't you say? I have no idea who's in this place. I have no idea what they think of me. I have no idea if they're going to attempt to extort me because I'm known for having money, etc. But it is what it is, and God has a plan. I understand the battle I'm in. Maybe I should be offended. Maybe I should wake up and say they've taken all my money and they're taking me away from my children, they're wasting my life. Maybe I should care. I keep going back to the Matrix, but I'm going to allow myself that privilege because they put me in jail yesterday. These clowns. But they attack masculinity on every level and say every single thing about it is bad until they need you to die in a war or run into a burning building, or they need 33 big guys to bust in my door. Then they need masculinity. But that is reassuring when you're in jail. Look, I'm still the center of their universe. They're still obsessed with me. I'm still the most important man in their lives. There is a war against free thought. There is a war against the basic tenets of masculinity. They are out to destroy anybody who thinks for themselves or has any semblance of manhood about him. If they get their teeth into you, sir, and they go through every phone call you've ever had, every text message you've ever sent, everywhere you've ever been, they will find crimes and your indictment will make you look like the Antichrist. Fact. But there were times the guards rushed into my room and did a complete sweep for anything that I could kill myself with. I was like, guys, I would never kill myself. Have you not seen my podcasts?
Hi, Shaun.
Man, I've just woke up and seen the news. Can you believe it? Poor guys.
Yeah, look, Shaun, irrespective of the truthfulness of the allegations here, my professional advice to you and the rest of your team is that you do not visit Romania.
Yeah, but did you see it says he's only going to be detained for 24 hours? I think he's going to want a voice. He's got a good relationship with Michael Francis, who's coming with us. And if we're there to support him, it's going to go a long way, and we could broadcast that. Michael could broadcast his support for him. I think it'll help rally, his cause.
Look, and I understand that, but at the end of the day, as a legal advisor, I'm going to advise that you don't go out there.
Hey, good morning, Ron. Hope you're doing well. So I've just found out they have seized Michael Francis' passport. The US authorities, can you believe it? He is applying for an emergency passport and he needs another document on letterhead from Gadfly Entertainment. I'm going to send you the specifics in a message now, what he needs, and I'll fill in the numbers in a separate text. But we need you to get that over to Ella ASAP, so jam some coffees down your gullet and get on this, please. Priority one. Alright, cheers. We're at the airport. It's a 4-hour flight, I think. Our gate's about to open.
Oh, is it? Oh God.
We've been here since. Well, because this thing has been politicised, is it possible that they are eavesdropping on all this, and that we ourselves are being under surveillance right now because we're going to Tate, who's public enemy number one from the most powerful governments in the world? Is it possible that we could get detained? This is how crazy this has got.
What do I do if you get detained? What do I do if the worst case scenario happens and you get detained?
I'm going to contact Tate's camp now before the boarding thing goes up, so I'll get back to you shortly.
Okay. Right.
Love you, bye. So I have been inundated with people asking, get the Tate brothers on to tell their prison stories in depth, man. We are fundamentally a prison channel that went down the rabbit hole of the Matrix with David Icke. So viewers, you're in for an absolute treat. But the Matrix has revealed itself on the way here. As many of you know, Michael Franzese was supposed to be here with us today. 2 days before we schedule a sit down with Andrew, he gets his passport confiscated by the American authorities. Can you believe it? And they say the Matrix doesn't exist. Come on now. It's quite obvious. Before we get into the prison stuff and the rest of the stories, huge thank you first to Andrew, because it was only yesterday, he got put back inside for a day.
Yeah.
We'd already booked to come out. We were like, what is going on? And he must be hectic right now. And he's kindly come down here, spent this time with us. So hugely appreciate it, man. Thank you.
No, thank you for having me. Yeah, I got out of jail 21 hours ago on my second visit. And very interesting what you say about Michael. I'm praying for him, because anyone who believes the Matrix doesn't exist just simply hasn't got high enough yet. I often compare it to, but it's like a fishbowl, right? You have people living inside of the fish tank, and they're swimming around talking about how free they are. And they say, I can see in all directions, and I don't see any walls, and I'm free. And I'm sure that's true unless you try and swim too far, and then you're going to start bouncing up against glass walls, and you're going to realize that there are control mechanisms that are designed to prevent people from learning too much or saying too much or having too much unless you are controlled to some degree. And I guess that's a simple way of explaining it, the Matrix as a whole. I actually was having this conversation with Tristan the other day that I feel like this whole generation of people becoming famous on their own merit and on their own back. I say generation, it's probably only about 6-7 years old that a podcaster or somebody can come along and garner international attention without needing a gatekeeper as such. I know you're still on YouTube, but YouTube to a degree is still a gatekeeper. You said about David, David's been banned. I've been banned. I hope you survive for as long as possible, my friend.
I was banned twice after covering that story.
Well, there you go. So if you work in traditional entertainment industries, there's a gatekeeper. There's a manager or a producer or a director or a record label or a sports team, whatever. There's somebody who you've signed that contract with who will prevent you from doing things or saying things they don't want you to say. Otherwise, it's all over. There's a gatekeeper. And now we've entered a generation, or we've entered a time where people can come along, become famous on their own back, of their own merit, especially with Rumble and X, these other platforms. You can avoid gatekeepers. And that is very aggravating to the people who only want certain ideas purported. So their answer to that is lawfare. Their answer to that is the legal system. They say, okay, well, this person's talking too much and there's no manager we can call to make sure he shuts up. Let's try and bribe him with some money. Let's try and get him a sponsorship contract. Let's get him under someone's heel. If the person declines such a sponsorship contract, then the answer after that is to try and shut you up, ban you everywhere. And if that fails, the only move they have left is to put you in jail. And what they'll do is they'll go to the legal system, they'll assign a prosecutor, and they'll say, do whatever it takes to ruin this person's life. And he'll do his very best. And that's why I talk about the fish tank, because people are swimming around inside of the water and they believe the legal system is fair. And they believe that everything you're told in the news is true. And that there's no reason for the Matrix to exist. Why would it exist? Why would there be this big collusion to try and prevent certain ideas being released to the public? I've never experienced any of these things. Well, that's because you're being a good little fish. You're inside of the bowl. If you try and go too far, you'll start bumping up against the glass wall, and the glass wall can be your social media accounts, it can be your bank accounts, it can be your freedom to live and breathe, because they will throw you in a cell. And I guess, perhaps I don't want to be too forgiving. I'm often called too nice. I don't even know this. I'm called too nice far too often. But I sit and I analyze, and you have to understand that although they're destroying my life, I don't take it so personally, because I very much understand why they're doing it. And I understand the enemy I have chosen. I feel like the best thing I can be in this situation is to not be emotional about what's happening to me. Because if I'm emotional, I don't think it allows me to think rationally. And I look at it very simply, and I ask the people at home who don't believe in the Matrix, think of it this simply. If you owned a company and you had members of staff, and you wanted your members of staff to act in a certain way, and you had a couple members of staff who continually defied your orders and wouldn't do as you told them or asked them to do, even though what you need them to do is to the best interests of the company as a whole. They're coming along and acting different than you want them to act, and it's damaging your bottom line. You would fire them. Well, you can think of the world as a company, and they have decided that certain ideas are good for them. I disagree. They've decided that certain moral standings and geopolitical decisions are good for them. And of course, I disagree. And I'm the bad employee. And unfortunately for them, people are listening to me talk. So now I'm inspiring a little rebellion around the water cooler on the lunch break. And they've thought, well, we have to stop this. And they've come along and are using the tools they have at their disposal. And first, they're going to slander you and cancel you everywhere and try their very best to convince the world you're a bad person. And if that fails, they will throw you in jail. And I understand why they're doing what they're doing. I'm not personally offended, if that makes sense. I understand the battle I'm in. Maybe I should be offended. Maybe I should wake up and say they've taken all my money and they're taking me away from my children. They're wasting my life. Maybe I should care. But when they come to arrest me, I'm very much like, well, this is the game we play. It's like losing a character, and it's like losing a little piece in checkers. You took my piece. Like that's the game. And perhaps I'm too rational about it. But anybody at home who doesn't understand that it's really that simple, that if you owned a company, you wouldn't allow bad employees to inspire a rebellion against the company. And the governments don't allow individuals to speak too much truth about how evil these governments are. Now, the problem with all of this is that I'm on the right side of history and I'm right and they're wrong and they're genuinely evil. That's the problem with all of it. The problem with all of it is I'm actually the good guy. But they don't see it that way. They see themselves as the good guy. I am the bad guy because I will not wear a dress. And therefore, I must pay the price.
Yeah, it's an inversion. Let's get back to the Matrix then. Let's go into the prison stuff first. So on the day of your arrest, the first arrest, not yesterday, what were you looking forward to the most in your life? What were your plans?
I had a flight booked for that day. I had a jet on the runway, fully fueled. I was intending on flying back to Dubai. I only came to Europe for 4 days. I came to London to have a conversation with Piers Morgan. And then I stopped in Prague, and then I stopped in Vienna. And then from Vienna, I thought, do I fly directly to Dubai? Because I intend on being in Dubai for the next 3 or 4 months. But then I decided to repack my suitcase. I thought, I've had the same clothes for a while, and I'm filmed everywhere I go. It's all on TikTok. I should probably change. So I flew and I landed here at 7 p.m. and my intention was to take off at 10 a.m. I landed, I packed my bag, I went to bed. And then at 5 a.m., friends came to visit me. And that was the beginning of a saga which is going on for 2 years now. I've not left this country. I've only recently been able to leave this city. I've been under some form of arrest for 422 days, I believe.
Let's suspend that moment, because when the SWAT team came for me, I had all these plans. We were going to move to California, in Arizona, all this stuff. Door smashes down, they open up. And it's like time slows down and everything goes upside down.
Yeah.
Did something like that happen for you?
I'll be honest with you. The first emotion I felt was relief. Because when I heard the door getting busted in, I grabbed a machete near my bed, and I thought it was the other guys. I thought it was the other team of enemies. Because anybody who reaches a certain echelon of life, you have two enemies. You have the law, and you have the other team, right? They're opposite teams. You're in a web, and there's two spiders. So I thought it was the Albanians or something. So when I first saw police, for a fraction of a second, I was like, oh, thank God, it's only the cops. No big deal. So they started waving guns around and being overly aggressive. And I was like, all right, okay, calm down. What's this all about? And they weren't very forthcoming. The first word the police officer said to me is, where is your Bugatti? First word. It's like, why do you care where my Bugatti is? Because they wanted to seize the Bugatti. Almost as if this whole thing was financially motivated, which would be pretty interesting. I was actually speaking to one of my friends the other day. I was saying this to somebody. I was saying, I wonder if governments are astute enough to look at somebody with a bunch of money and think, you know what? You know who will definitely not use any kind of international loopholes or international business banking or be clever with their accounting? You know who will just pay their 50% tax on time? Their lawyers. If we screw this guy with $1 million a month in legal fees, we get $500,000 a month. So let's just tie him up with this shit for 4 years. I wonder if they actually think that way. We can get PC Plod and give him, he's on 33 grand a year. We can make him file some papers and mess with this guy, and we can get $500,000 a month out of this dude. And they don't care whether you're guilty, innocent. They're uninterested. I don't know if they ever operate that way or think of it that way, but I think it literally can come down to that.
Okay, in America, it's called civil asset forfeiture laws, and it's got to the point now where if kids are driving around their parents' cars and there's in the car, they keep the vehicle. It's all about seizing people's assets.
Wow.
Yeah, you got jacked.
And this is the thing. Then you go deeper down the rabbit hole of the Matrix, because especially people inside of that fish tank, they don't understand that you don't own anything. I keep saying this to people. The number of people who come to me and say, Andrew, why are you fighting this fight? Why don't you just give up? As if I'm some kind of coward, as if that was ever an option for me. I'm sure for the average person that would be an option, but the average person wouldn't end up where I am. So no, I don't give up and I don't quit and I'm stubborn and you're gonna have to kill me because that's who I am. But the average person's like, if I had your money, I'd just buy a few houses around the world and I'd just go on holiday and sit on the beach. Showing that their mind is so empty. Well, all you're basically doing is telling me why you'll never have my money, because you're an empty vessel. If you think sand and a cocktail is all it takes for happiness and fulfillment as opposed to struggle and war, well, then you don't deserve riches. But this idea of having a few houses around the world, you don't own those houses. They are not yours. You can get any piece of paper you want saying you own that house. Piss off the government and you will see how quickly you lose that house and everything in it. All they have to do is assign PC Plod on his $33,000 a year to file a paper to go to some judge, along with all the other papers that judge has that day. They don't have time to look into any of it. They're just like, oh, okay, stamp. Before you know it, they turn up with guns and they take it off you. You don't own anything you can't defend, and you can't defend yourself against the government. You don't own anything. And once you've had your house raided enough times, as I have, you learn you don't own anything in any country. The whole thing, the whole idea of ownership in and of itself is a scam, which makes you even less content with these governments. It makes you want to live under them even less, because all the things they promise you, property rights, and you can have a car, and we can give you safety. All that goes out the window when you've stolen my cars and stolen my house and turned up with guns and waved shotguns in my face. So why am I supposed to believe the government for anything anymore? So you don't even own anything. Whole thing's a scam.
Let's go to after the guns. My ride to the cop shop, the cop had aviator sunglasses on, chewing tobacco, 98 KUPD on the radio.
Nice.
What was your ride to the cop shop like?
Yeah, so when they came in the house, I was relieved it was the police. They tried to rough me up a little bit, and I was very calm. I said, guys, there's no need to do this part. I'm not resisting in any regard. I mean, there's about 33 of you. 32? Maybe. But 33? I'll let you have it. So,
it's an Illuminati number.
Bro, yeah. So they sat me on the couch. They asked where my Bugatti was repeatedly. Where's the Bugatti? Where's the Bugatti? Because the Bugatti, I actually realized, now I understand this is all a Matrix attack, is a symbol of my wealth. This was all done to me to damage my influence. And the Bugatti was viral at the time. What color is your Bugatti? I have this fast car. So they were desperate to take this symbol of resilience to show the world, he doesn't have one either. My Bugatti wasn't at the house. They never actually took that Bugatti. But they were desperate to get it. They kept almost begging for it, this female officer. I was like, why are you begging for my car? Can you calm down? What are you doing in my house? And they said, we have to wait for your lawyer to get here. It was very early in the morning. We waited for my lawyer to arrive, and they began a house search. My house search was 13 or 14 hours of searching the house. The whole time I had to just sit on the couch and just wait. So they went through the entire house.
For 13 hours?
For 13 hours, they were going through my entire house.
You just sat there?
Yeah. I mean, when I went piss, they'd follow me, watch me go piss.
Peter gazing.
Peter gazing. You know the great thing about it? When they went to Peter gaze me, I was like, I'm not going to hide. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to put it right in your face. You want to watch me piss, sir? Here it is. Now you feel inadequate on top of everything else. I just did it right in front of him. F you. Shouldn't be falling to the bathroom. Pervs. So they followed me to the bathroom, and then they found my safe, which they couldn't open. So they got me from the couch, and they come and said, open the safe. I said, no, I'm not going to open it. And they said, well, you're going to jail. So it doesn't matter if it takes 2 months, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months. We're going to get in that safe, and we're going to destroy your house while we do it. Once again, you don't own anything. Anything you cannot defend, you don't own. I said to Tristan, do we open it? And Tristan goes, no. And I was like, but they're just going to get in anyway, and they're going to cause crazy damage. And then my brain started to tick, and I thought, they'll probably use this as an excuse to keep me in jail longer. We're not in the safe yet. We're not in the safe yet. That's where the evidence is. And they'll just delay it. So I open the safe, and they steal all my diamond watches and steal all my gold and steal all my cash, take everything off me. Then they got my phones. Tell me your phone password. Open your phones. But I was very stressed, and I couldn't remember the password. I said, I'm very stressed. I'm suffering from anxiety because you got so many guns in here, and I don't remember. I'm sorry. And after the house search, they put me in a transit van surrounded by armed guards. And once we got into the van and the cameras were away, to be fair, the police were pretty not nice to me, but I said to them, I think I've pissed off somebody important. I said that. And the guy driving said, I think so. That was his answer. So I think they kind of knew something wasn't right about all of this garbage. I was taken, I was mugshotted, I was fingerprinted, and then I was thrown in jail.
Strip search?
No strip search. They just searched me head to toe. They patted me down, etc. They all knew who I was. Everybody knew exactly who I was. So like, what are you doing here? I was like, my friend, I wish I knew what I was doing here. Because I was arrested on the 29th of December. So because of Christmas and in between Christmas and New Year, etc., there was no translators working. So the papers I was giving for my arrest were in Romanian. And I didn't even have an English translation of why I was in jail for 2 weeks. I didn't know. I kept getting given Romanian pieces of paper. I don't speak Romanian. All I saw was human trafficking. And I was like, this is absolutely insane. Human trafficking who? I found out later exactly how insane the whole case is. But I was thrown in a jail cell. Yeah.
So the detention facility, when you first went in, what was that like?
So the Romanian detention facilities were built during communism. And Romania is one of the poorest countries in Europe. And I don't think any politician could run and win an election based on the fact that he wants to upgrade the prisons, considering that the roads are damaged and the hospitals have problems and the pensions can't be paid. I don't think you're going to win an election based on prison refurbishment. So they have very little interest. The European Union as a whole has come along with standards which they're imploring all European nations to meet. But Romania, I think, and this can be looked up, I think Cheto has fined them. I think they get fined millions and millions of euros a year because they simply can't and don't meet the standards. The people were very nice to me. And I want to make this clear. All of the prison guards and the police officers the whole way through were very nice to me. And I think they knew what was happening. None of them for a second thought I was a bad person. They were very much like, sorry, bro, I'm just doing my job. You've annoyed somebody. I don't know who. And they were all very nice to me. But when I was put in that prison, it was a unique experience. I would argue that an Eastern European jail has got to be one of the worst in the world, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. Did you start out in holding cells before you were housed properly?
No. So you get 6 months in this detention center. And at the end of 6 months, if you're still being held, you get moved to the large jail. But the large jail is much better from my understanding, because the large jail, you get to leave your cell and there's like a tailor shop and a gym. And it's more like not community, but you have a exercise yard and it's more like a traditional jail. These holding cells are exactly that. They are holding rooms. And I was in a room maybe 2 or 3 times larger than this table, perhaps. 24-hour-a-day lockdown. I didn't go anywhere. I wasn't allowed out. There was no gym. There was nothing. I could take 3 steps in either direction for 93 days. And I was stuck in there. The window was about the size of my hand. And there was a tiny TV in the corner, which I understand was a European Union, some regulation they had to fill, but it was in Romanian and I couldn't understand it. And I was stuck in this darkened room for 93 days.
On the way to that room, were the other prisoners watching you come in?
Everyone started saying Frati Tate, which means brothers Tate, Tate brothers.
Right.
Because they heard that we were there. So it was like, Frati Tate, everyone's talking about it. And the guards are even saying to us, this is crazy. And I looked at the guard and I said, this is bullshit. I'll be out soon, right? And he kind of looked at me and he went, and I could see in his eyes he knew that I wasn't going to be out anytime soon. And that worried me a little bit. But I thought at first, this can't last long. If I knew I was going to be in there for 93 days, I might have had If I was capable of having a mental breakdown, which I'm not, I would have had one. Luckily, I'm incapable because I don't operate within that realm. I don't believe in things that can take away power from me. I don't have panic attacks. I don't have anxiety. None of those things, they're not inside of my software. But when I first went to jail, I thought I'd only be there for a few days. So I was like, okay, this sucks, but it's only a couple of days. Not going to be long, right? And you're looking for reassurance. I'm asking the guards. I'm asking the other prisoners. I'm like, they picked me up on some garbage. Why am I in here? And then you speak to a prisoner. He's like, I got picked up on garbage. It's like, what did you do? He goes, well, I bought and sold crypto, but they don't understand it. They don't get it. And they thought it was money laundering and they've just thrown me in jail. I was like, well, how long you been here? He goes, 2 years. I was like, okay, that's not good. Then I spoke to another guy, 3 years. This is all pre-trial. 19 months, 16 months. And I was like, has anyone been to court? They're like, oh, no. Trial takes a long time in Romania. It takes 4 or 5 years. They're busy. So I was like, you're all just sitting here? They're like, yeah. So it was over time it started to seep in. And after my first night in jail, I had to go to a judge the next day to decide whether I'd be released in 24 hours, as I just was recently, or if I'd be held for 30 days. And when I got to court, my lawyer, who I trust absolutely, and I believe is the best lawyer in Romania, my lawyer said, I've seen the file, I've read the file, you're going home. I was like, really? He goes, yes, they are saying that you told your friends how to do TikTok and you stole money from the TikTok accounts and that it's human by coercion. And that's why they've taken all your cars and all your gold because that's all made from TikTok and they've stolen everything. But don't worry, we're going to clear this up. You're going home today. And I don't understand Romanian, but my lawyer gave a very impassioned speech to the judge. And I could tell the passion in his voice. And he was 100% confident. And the judge looked very receptive. She looked very receptive. She was like, okay, makes sense. The judge went to deliberate for about an hour. And I was sitting with my lawyer talking about how it's crazy they could even arrest me on something so silly. And we're talking about it. And about half an hour into this conversation, because I'm a professional, I said to my lawyer, but what happens if I do go to jail? And he goes, you won't. I was like, but what happens if I do? He goes, well, if you do, there'll be an appeal process. And after 30 days, you'll go to court again. And for some reason, when he said that, I knew. It's like deja vu. It was in my mind. I could see it. As soon as he said it, I looked at Tristan and I said, we're going to jail. He goes, no, we're not. I said, Tristan, we're going to jail. Judge came back out, sat down, 30 days preventive detention, boom, walks off. Couldn't believe it. Put me back in handcuffs and dragged me back to jail.
Yeah, there's like the eternal hope of the newly incarcerated and it gets punctured, doesn't it? And once you accept that, you just get on with it.
Yeah, I think it gets worse. I think the first few days when you're trying to work everything out, you still have hope in the system to some degree. And once you realize the truth of it all, it's almost like a month in, you're like, okay, I'm going to be here for a very long time. And that's when you get truly almost disheartened. I think I felt worse about a month in. The beginning wasn't so bad. And the end, because of Ramadan, I felt empowered and it wasn't so bad. But in the middle, about a month and a half in is when it was really bad. And the story of my New Year's Eve is famous because I was arrested on the 29th and I remember spending New Year's Eve listening to the Lost Ketchup song. There was a tiny little party going on for the guards. One of the guards used to say something to me, which kind of made me feel better. He'd say, how are you? I said, well, I'm still in jail. He goes, brother, one day you'll be free. I've been in jail for 20 years because he works there. So I was like, maybe. Yeah, maybe it's not all bad. Maybe I'll get out one day and I get to go back on my private jet. Maybe. Turns out I get to come out, but I don't get to go anywhere. But him and the other colleagues were having a little party and they were listening to the Lost Ketchup song on New Year's Eve. And I remember sitting in that room by myself in the dark. And New Year's came around and the fireworks went off and I could see them through the small window and I could hear everybody cheering. And I was kind of amused by the fact that when the clock struck 12, nothing at all happened. Like nothing happened. It's like, Happy New Year. And then you kind of look around your room. There's no one celebrating. Even the cockroaches on my ceiling didn't move. They were uninterested in the New Year celebration. It's just like, yeah. So it was, but I didn't feel bad then. I still felt like this was some sort of misunderstanding. I need to speak to the American embassy. We have an appeal coming up. the judge just put me in jail because it was the 29th of December and she's busy. Let me get to the appeal. Let's get New Year's out the way. Let me speak to the embassy. Let me get my papers in English. Let me explain this is garbage and I'll be out. And as each one of those things got snatched from me, about a month and a half in, I realized, okay, I'm in trouble.
Going back to when you first went in, I mean, I'd watched Shawshank Redemption, so I was myself, and then I go in, and all these massive tattooed guys are staring at me through the plexiglass, fresh meat.
Yeah.
With the guys shouting, Tate brothers, Tate brothers, Tate brothers. That must have really boosted your spirits, because didn't you have had you watched Shawshank, for example?
I've seen it, yeah.
Before did you have a preconceived notion of what you were getting into, Banged Up Abroad style?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because Putin recently said about the war in Ukraine, he said, growing up on the streets of Leningrad taught me that if a fight is inevitable, you must hit first. And my approach to violence my entire life has been one of absolute avoidance. I'm not a violent person and I don't like violence, but I understand that violence exists in the world and I've always been okay at it. I'm pretty good at it. And to me, it's almost like the rain. I don't want it to rain, but if it rains, you get wet. And my brother and I kind of looked at each other because we can speak without speaking because we lived together our whole lives. And as we were taken into the cell, as we were taken into the jail, I apologize, from the van, we gave each other a glance and a nod. And that was basically hit first. That was all it meant. We're going to walk in there and we're going to hold our heads high. We're going to treat people with respect. We're going to be a very good person and nice and polite and say please and sorry and thank you. But if some idiot really wants it, then you're going to hit him first. But I didn't feel like it was up to me. It's almost like, is it going to rain? Is it going to snow? I'll deal with it if it comes, and there's nothing I can do about it. So I felt a twinge of nerves, but not fear. It was more like pre-fight nerves, like I have no idea who's in this place. I have no idea what they think of me. I have no idea if they're going to attempt to extort me because I'm known for having money, etc. But it is what it is, and God has a plan. And if I win or lose whatever encounter I enter, once again, it's God's plan. Perhaps I'll die in here, but it is what it is. The jail cell doors were solid metal. There was only a very tiny window, so I couldn't see anything but the eyes of the other prisoners. So I couldn't really get a gauge on them. And then I was thrown in my cell. So I didn't engage with any of them for the first few days.
Do you remember the very first conversation you had with a prisoner?
Yes. The very first conversation I had with a prisoner was asking how long he'd been there and what for. And I soon came to realize, and I'm sure this is true in most countries which are poor, that there isn't much of a divide between the criminal justice system and the mental health system. In the West, we try our best to put a divide in the two. Even if you do bad actions, if you're mentally ill, you'll be treated differently. Whereas in countries like this, you just go to jail. So I started to learn over time that a lot of the people in there were mentally ill or mentally weak. You know what's kind of funny? You imagine the prisoners in jail to be these big psychopathic hardened killers, and some of them are. But a lot of the people, even the ones who commit murder, are actually just emotionally weak people who can't control their temper. They will get angry too fast and kill someone. They'll also cry too easy. They'll also be very sad. They'll also mope around. You'll see a killer and you imagine him to walk like a predator. A lot of the killers walked like they were just depressed and sad. And I was like, well, he looks like he's having a hard time. Why is he here? Oh, he killed 4 people. You're like, oh, well, okay. I don't feel sorry for him anymore. But like, it's strange how it's just mentally weak, which ties back into the Matrix, by the way. It ties back into all of the things I teach, because they say I'm dangerous for teaching masculine qualities. But the traditional masculine quality is stoicism, the ability to ignore how you feel and act how you're supposed to act, irregardless of your feelings. Women get mad and scream. Women act like how they feel. A man has to feel a certain way and act differently, or he can't compete in the world. He can't outcompete other men. So the men who can't do that are the ones who end up in jail. So when the feminists in the Matrix are saying men need to act out their feelings and be more sensitive, well, if we act out our feelings, guess what happens? People also get killed because we get mad. So it's not a good thing. So I was actually surprised by the people who I saw who did the most heinous crimes weren't psychopathic and calculated. They seemed more like beaten down by life. Does that make sense?
Yeah, definitely. Disadvantaged. A lot of them traumatized. A lot of them state raised.
Yeah.
Where I was at, a third of them couldn't even read or write. And Half my friends were ex-soldiers, come back from wars, PTSD, didn't get any help from the government, bam, into the prison system.
Yep. And isn't that the saddest possible route? Because I keep going back to the Matrix, but I'm going to allow myself that privilege because they put me in jail yesterday, these clowns. But they attack masculinity on every level and say every single thing about it is bad until they need you to die in a war or run into a burning building, or they need 33 big guys to bust in my door. Then they need masculinity. So they'll send you off to go die for a war you don't even truly understand. You don't even know why you're there. I'm sure they've told you why you're there, but you don't know why you're actually there. And you're going to risk life and limb. And if you survive and come back with any kind of mental trauma and then don't act exactly how they want you to act as a good tax-paying slave, they just throw you in jail without remorse.
Meanwhile, George Bush and Dick Cheney have made billions.
Of course. They've laundered all the money. So the whole thing is truly disgusting. And yeah, I'm sure that's one of the saddest paths, but it's also a path I can very easily see how people will end up in jail after coming back with PTSD from war. Their wife's someone else the last 6 years. They come back expecting to come home to a happy family. She's been with Tom, Dick, and Harry. And they have PTSD and they can't pay their bills. Of course they're going to end up doing something stupid. And they're going to end up in the prison system. And yeah, they're going to catch a murder charge or something else. And they're not psychopathic killers. They're sad. The people in jail who actually seem like the most calculated were a lot of the financial criminals. They're sharp, mentally at least. But also in a Romanian jail, and like I said, this is not insult to Romania. I'm sure this is the same in most poorer countries. There was a lot of simply mental health issues. There was a lot of people who were simply mentally ill. And they weren't separated in any way. So you had people who would just bang their head on the door until they'd bleed everywhere, and an ambulance would have to come, and they'd get dragged out the cell unconscious or whatever, patched up, thrown back in. 3 days later, they'd bang their head on the door. So I was living in a mental asylum. Part of the experience was it. There were a lot when I was in there. I can't say exactly how many. But there were times the guards rushed into my room and did a complete sweep for anything that I could kill myself with. I was like, guys, I would never kill myself. Have you not seen my podcasts? And they're like, no, Tate, we got to take everything. They took my little bottle of Tabasco because it was made of glass. They took my exercise band. Took my bed sheets, took my shoelaces. And your room just gets stripped of any type of comfort whatsoever. So, yeah, it was interesting.
Going back to your cell, how did you use the toilet? Was the little sink combination toilet in there? How did you shower?
Yeah, interesting. So we had a very efficient combination in the corner. We had a little sink, and then we also had a toilet, which was effectively a hole in the ground. There was no toilet of any kind. It was a hole in the ground. And there was a shower above the hole in the ground. And from what I could deduce, all the holes in the ground from all the cells in a row were on the same large sewage pipe. Oh. So there was all these holes in the ground going to the same large sewage pipe. But the real problem was that the shower was above this hole in the ground. So using the toilet was inconvenient. But the biggest problem is that if you went to have a hot shower, and the water was hot, which actually surprised me, we had hot water, it would stink out because it would go down to this sewage pipe and sewage steam would come out and steam out the room. So you couldn't really have a hot shower without suffering 3 hours of sewage smell inside of your cell. So it was a unique experience of knowing there was hot water, but being forced to use the cold to avoid the stench.
What was the stench like?
Yeah, it was, I only found out once and I decided to have cold showers from then on out. And it was January in Bucharest, so it was minus. It was very cold outside. And I'll be honest, after about 2 weeks, I just thought, I'll just stink. I'll just have one shower every couple of weeks. If you don't like how I smell, let me go. Because I'm freezing. I'm either freezing to death in my bed, shivering, or my room stinks. So that was the kind of combination in the corner. And then we had bunk beds. The mattresses were piss-stained foam, perhaps an inch, literally so thin. And we had a blanket. And that was the cell. We had a tiny TV in the corner. About this big.
Did you have toilet paper rations? Because when we ran out, we had to use the Financial Times.
Yeah, they didn't ration our toilet paper. No,
Hey guys, I've just got back from Romania and the Matrix has truly revealed itself by preventing Michael Franzese from coming to the podcast with Andrew and Tristan and from preventing him from going to his UK tour, which was supposed to start a couple of days ago. I have spoken to Michael. He's absolutely devastated that he could not make these sit-downs with the Tate brothers. He is devastated that he could not make his UK tour. A job's worth, confiscated his passport. He's getting this resolved, and we've rescheduled the tour for the middle of May here in the UK. So let's show the powers that be that we will not be cowed. If you're going to come along and support Michael, tickets are on Eventbrite, and I will put the link in the description box if you are watching this video on YouTube. I'm going to be hosting, so I'll be introing Michael. I'll be facilitating the Q&A, and I hope to see many of you there. Down with the Matrix. We will not be told what to do by these reptilian, shape-shifting lizard people. Thanks for watching. Back to the podcast.
Yeah, look, Shaun, irrespective of the truthfulness of the allegations here, my professional advice to you and the rest of your team is that you do not visit Romania.
I think my brother and I might have been the richest people ever to be in a Romanian jail, because you have a commissary limit and you have a commissary spend. And obviously we were maxing out our spend.
What was the weekly limit?
I think you were allowed €500 a month. But between us both, that's €1,000 a month in our cell by the time we were together. And if you're only buying cheap things, I mean, it's quite a lot. I might be wrong. It might be €500 every 2 weeks. So we might have had €2,000 a month. But most people in there were in there with no hope, no money on the commissary, no one sending them money, nothing. They're living on the free jail food, and they're begging for cigarettes. Whereas my brother and I had unlimited cigarettes, unlimited toilet paper, unlimited bottles of water, unlimited. We had all these things. The problem was that we could only buy food from this approved list, and this store, whatever store they found, must have literally been the store around the corner, because they sold no protein, no meat, nothing of substance. You could just buy Oreos, cookies, toilet paper, water, Coca-Cola, junk. You could only buy junk food, which was quite frustrating, because you buy Oreos and then you sit in jail and you think, I'm not going to eat too many Oreos because I don't want to get out of shape in this place. And then you're just staring at the Oreos for 33 whole minutes, which of course is 10 hours in jail. And you end up just eating 4 packs of Oreos a day. So it was annoying me. I couldn't get any real food, and I had to live off the prison system food or eat junk food effectively.
So if you had a lot of commissary, then that makes you a target, because you've got to break bread to your mates. But if you break too much bread, the moochies are going to be lined up at your cell trying to get everything you've got.
Yep.
How did you balance that?
I really do believe that 99% of people, if you treat them with respect, will give you respect back. I really believe that. Of course, there are the oddballs, and there's some people who are simply broken, and there's some people which are quicker to anger than others. But I feel like if you are pretty respectful to most people, you'll be okay. And I feel like in general, jail is just a condensed version of life for a man. I feel like it's just hyper condensed. If you get angry in traffic, you wouldn't be able to survive jail. You get angry quicker. People get angry quicker. You have to be more polite. You have to be more quiet sometimes. You have to be more prepared for a fight, even though you don't want to have one. Everything's just turned up a notch. That's how it is. And I was very giving and nice to people, but I also sometimes simply said no. And I felt like if I explain myself, it's weakness. So for the same reason, I don't like to explain myself in my everyday life. And I'll segue and say this. A lot of people think I'm some rich kid. I think a lot of the people even in the jail thought I was some rich kid. They're like, the Tate brothers, they're rich guys. They didn't realize that my brother and I are the opposite of rich kids. We're poor people with a lot of money. We're from the streets. We're from the absolute bottom. We grew up around the knife crime and the robberies, and we've been arrested and all this garbage before. So if they expected us to be pushovers or weaklings, they learned very quickly that's not the case. And if somebody said, can I have cigarettes? Sometimes I would say, sure. Can I have cigarettes? No, sorry. I'm not going to say no because I'm running out and I need to do more, because that's weakness. For the same reason, in my relationship, I don't like explaining myself to my girlfriend. Don't do that. Why? Because I said no. I'm not going to sit here and talk till white because I said no. That's the answer, no. I won't explain myself to my children. I won't explain myself to my staff. Do this. Okay. I don't want to sit there and give reasons for shit. That's a habit I learned from my dad. It offends me. I don't have to give my reasons. So if a guy came up and said, oh, can I have this? No, sorry. And then I just stand there and say, you going to do something about it? I'm standing right here. And what can he say? If I give him a bunch of excuses, then he could say, oh, brother, please. If I just say, no, sorry, then it's either a fight or it's not. And it looks like they didn't want to fight. So
were you ever tempted to hustle with your commentary, do double bubble, that kind of thing?
I was trying to get gym time. The first week, I couldn't go to the gym. So I was like, who do I need to give cigarettes to go to the gym? And it took me a full week to realize there is no gym. There is nowhere to go. I'm not leaving this room, which kind of upset me because I bought extra cigarettes. You know, you're like, okay, cigarettes are the currency. So let me buy as many cigarettes as possible and see if I can get like gym time or something. But no, there was nowhere to go. There was nothing to do. There was not much I could do with it besides just be generous. And I was being as generous as I could because that's who I am as a person anyway. A couple people, I believe, tried to take the piss, and I just made it very clear to them, you shouldn't have done that. No, I'm not giving you anything anymore.
Could you be more specific? How did they try and take the piss?
Well, I think when you go to Romanian jail and you've been there for a long time and you've been trying to get cigarettes out of people for years and most of them never have cigarettes, and then rich foreigners come and you ask for a cigarette and you get a pack, and then you've been around the system long enough perhaps to understand that eventually we will leave and they're never going to leave. I guess they kind of view it as make hay while the sun shines. So they just start smoking a pack in an hour and then ask for another pack. So where's the last ones? Like, I smoked them all. I know you didn't. He goes, look, I smoked them all. And then I'd give him another pack of cigarettes and observe and watch him literally chain smoke them all. He thinks he can get unlimited cigarettes for this period of time. Like his grace has come. For these few months, cigarettes are free. So, and eventually I'd say, no, my friend. If I give you cigarettes, you're going to have to make them last. I'm not giving you any more. And I like to think that firm line can be held in most things in life. I guess if I were to ask myself why I acted that way in jail, just like I alluded to earlier, is how I act in life. If I say to my girlfriend, no, and she goes, well, I'm going to do it anyway. Well, I've said no, I'm going to do it anyway, then we're going to break up. If I say to a man no, and he makes a big deal of it, then he can fight me. Like, it is what it is. The answer is no, and I'm not going to tell you why. I just said no. I'm a full-grown man, the answer is no, and it's mine. It's mine. My brother had a saying in jail, which was, for some reason, kept making me laugh. Things are funny in jail that aren't funny on the outside, but it was funny. He'd slick his hair back. He'd get a cigarette. He'd smoke it and goes, let him try. Because I said to him about some guy kept asking for cigarettes. He goes, let him try. I'm a fucking tough guy. I was like, what does that mean? He goes, you know, like the movies. I'm a fucking tough guy, like the movies. I'll body slam him. I'm a fucking tough guy. For some reason, it was funny. But I guess that's just our attitude. We weren't there to be bullied by anybody. And very quickly, people treated us with respect. And I was very respectful to people, but also there was times I bumped into a guy in the hallway. And from my understanding, he was in jail for beating someone with a hammer. Some old man with a hammer, he beat him to death or something. And I bumped into him and I said sorry, and he didn't reply. And the guards were walking us. I said, brother, I said sorry to you. And he goes, oh, sorry. I made a killer apologize to me. Now, why did I do that? Because I said sorry to you, and you just ignored me. Now, I have no idea. He might have gone back to his cell and say, I bumped into Tate. He said sorry. The fact I made him apologize to me, you don't know how the repercussions spread in a place like jail. That might have been enough for him to go, you know what, those Tate brothers, you don't know. And I don't think I was being unfair. I wasn't being aggressive. I wasn't trying to start a fight. But he bumped into me effectively. In fact, I didn't even do anything wrong. He bumped into me, and I said sorry. So you better say it back, sir. And I feel like if you approach life that way, you'll be okay.
Yeah, people don't understand how combustible it is. Like, you could be walking past someone, they say, what are you looking at? Looking at nothing. You calling me nothing?
Yeah.
Next thing, bam.
And that's one thing that actually, I think prisons, of course, I say I think, I'm sure I know. Prisons are different all around the world. And I feel like an American jail, perhaps in many ways, would be more violent than a Romanian jail. It didn't feel violent. It felt sad. I don't know how to explain it. It didn't feel like a violent place. There was the capability of many to be violent, and there certainly was tinges of violence in the air sometimes. But it felt sad. That's how it felt. I'd imagine an American jail will be different because I think to even be violent requires a degree. It's a high energy expenditure. If you're with your friends and you're with your gang and you're out in the yard and you're talking and you're laughing and there's enough in you. But if you're just locked in a room all day, every day in the dark with the roaches and you get to bump past the prisoner for a few seconds every 4 days, like, are you really going to use that chance to get the shit kicked at you by guards? Really? Everyone was depressed. Everyone was chronically depressed. So I felt like in a lot of ways that kept a lot of the violence under control, if that makes sense.
Yeah. How many days did it take for you to settle down into a routine?
That's a very good question. Because now I think about it. And when I just went back yesterday, it was probably my worst day in jail I've ever had. It was worse than the 3 months because the 3 months I had a routine. I had a system. I was very busy in jail. I found a way to be busy all day, every day. I didn't have any spare time. There'd be days in jail I'd wake up and I'd start my things, whatever, and I'd check the time and be like, I'm late. Like I had things to do. If I had to go to court that morning and they messed up my schedule, I was in a very bad mood, especially when they rejected me. Like, why take me to court to reject me? Just let me do my things. So I think within 2 or 3 weeks, I had a schedule. I'd be up at around the same time and we'd get our hot water at a certain time and I'd begin my training at a certain time and there'd be a particular show on that I understood at a certain time, which would burn 30 minutes and I'd watch that. And then I'd do my other training after that and I'd have to do 1,000 push-ups a day and then I'd clean the toilet and then I'd sweep the whole floor and then we'd go for killing bugs. But we had a system. This last day I was in jail, I was thrown in a cell with these 3 men I didn't know and it was their room. It's like walking into someone else's house, right? It's their room. It's their system. It's their setup. They went to bed at 7 p.m., these people. They turned off the TV and hit the lights and everything. By 7 p.m., they went to sleep. My system, me and my brother would be up till 2, 3 in the morning. So 7 p.m., lights out, boom, quiet. These 3 guys are trying to sleep and you're just sitting there staring at the ceiling. So it was much worse to be thrusted into somebody else's ecosystem. But when I was in jail for the 3 months, after about a month, my brother and I had a pretty firm system set out. And hot water would come at a certain time and I'd get it on Mondays and he'd get it on Tuesdays because it was 6 a.m. and we'd sleep past that. So who'd have to get up to get the water and who made the coffee and the room was immaculate and how the cigarettes were stacked and how certain things went in certain places and who did the washing up. Within a month, we had a very system. I didn't have any spare time in jail. I was very busy, if that makes sense.
Did you have just enough floor space to do push-ups on?
Literally. I could literally do push-ups and maybe stick my arm out, but then I'd touch the wall. That was it. And I'd do 1,000 push-ups a day.
What other exercises did you do?
In sets of 50. I'd do 300. I started with 400, but I ended up, I admit, going down to 300 squats every single day. And then if there was a good TV show on, I would sit with 6 2-liter bottles of water, which is 12 kilos, around 28 pounds or something. And I'd sit and lift it over my head, back, forth, while watching TV on a little plastic chair. And then about a month and a half in, the leg to my plastic chair broke. Oh. And then, which was very upsetting. And there was no other chairs in the jail. So I got a bed sheet and I made the sheet into kind of like a rope and put it around all 4 legs to keep it together and fix this chair. And that held out for about 4 days. And then someone killed themselves. So they bust into my cell and found the sheet and said, you're going to hang yourself. I said, no, I'm fixing my chair. So they took the sheet and left me with a 3-legged chair. So that kind of destroyed that. So from then on out, I had to do that exact exercise, but standing up. And I would just basically train all day. I would train all day and clean all day. And I guess you become pedantic about certain things because you have time. So, I'd pour coffee in a certain way and I'd wait a few minutes and I'd look at the cup and wait for it to cool down. And then I'd consciously enjoy the coffee as opposed to just famoose it like you normally do and consciously have a cigarette. You become more conscious. In the outside world, you have a cigarette while you're doing everything else. But in jail, you have a cigarette, you're having a cigarette. That's what you're doing. That's it.
So would you say then the things that you took for granted before that arrest, you started to develop a whole new appreciation of them because, like sleep, food, quality, these things, you lose them and you realize how good you had it?
Yes, but it's also amazing how ungrateful the human mind is. Because you soon slip back into not respecting it anymore. True or false?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
No, but the day I got out, I walked down with this high street eating a banana like I was high on thinking I'm a free man. I can just eat a banana.
Yeah.
It didn't lasted a few months, but
and then it goes. Yeah, it's like you get out of jail and you're like, I could do anything. And then a few months in, you're like, man. And it's amazing how ungrateful you are as a person, like inside of us, because hedonistic adaptation's a thing. And there were promises I made to myself in jail about phone usage and, certain things that you soon slip back into your normal habits of just being on your phone all the time and working all the time, etc.
So did yesterday top you up on reminding about that?
You know what's so strange about yesterday? I woke up this morning and I looked around and I thought, in the alternate universe, I'd be waking up now in that room. And I took a second to thank God I wasn't in that room still. Because if I would have got 30 days yesterday, I have no idea how long I would have been in there. And I mean, it goes further down the rabbit hole because you can look at yourself and you can be cognitive of yourself and what's happening to you. But you start to understand that all of these systems we rely on to keep society functioning, at best, are limping forward. At best. People who are inside the fish tank, who are stuck in the middle of it and have never gone up against a glass wall, they imagine things like the justice system or the banking system to be well-oiled machines, a Ferrari tearing down the highway. When the truth is, it's actually far more like a pickup truck with 2 wheels missing. And it's moving forward, but there's sparks everywhere. They're damaging the road. It doesn't handle properly. It's about to crash. It's screeching. Yes, it moves, but it's so full of fault. There's so many mistakes with it. There isn't a jail on this planet without innocent people in it. There's not a jail on this planet without innocent people in it. And there's also not a jail on this planet without people who've been mis-sentenced, who have sentences they shouldn't have ever picked up. And my father, who was a professional chess player, he hung out with a black guy called Jack. Now, when I asked Jack used to have a lot of money on him. I asked my dad when I was a kid, I was around 10. So what's Jack's job? And my dad said, don't worry about Jack's job. Turns out later, I found out that Jack was a street in Chicago because we grew up in Gary, Indiana, just outside of Chicago. And he was a street. Jack is now dead. Funnily enough, side story. His number one chick stabbed him to death in his sleep because she went to another pimp. He found out, beat the shit out of the pimp. And this pimp convinced his number one chick to kill him. So she stabbed him to death. She's got life. So Jack's gone. But I remember Jack saying to me when I was young, I said to my father, I said, where's Jack? I haven't seen Jack in a while. My dad said, he's gone. He's busy. And when I saw Jack like 8 months later, he said, I've been in jail. And I said, I remember this vividly as a kid. I said, why did you go to jail? And he said, I caught a case. And I said to my dad, what does caught a case mean? And he said, it's like catching a cold, son. Just catch a case. And I didn't think much about it. And then in jail, I was recollecting that, thinking, you just catch a cold sometimes. You're going through life and you get a sniffle. Like, you just catch a case. Like, there's so many people in jail who have just caught a case. Like me, I just caught a case. I became too big on the internet and I pissed off someone, or I overtook a prosecutor in my Bugatti. I could have been driving my Bugatti through Bucharest and cut up a prosecutor. Could have been that simple. I could have seen some guy in his Chevrolet and said, get out of the way. And he was like, okay, Mr. Tate, file begins. Type. And they get you. You just catch a case. And it's crazy that you're put in this depressing place of despair. And your life is absolutely decimated. And this justice system, which is limping forward with its missing wheels, which everybody believes is some kind of fair representation of right and wrong. And there's people who are thrown into this grinder because they've just caught a case. And you could argue that in the end, people who are innocent get out and guilty people stay, perhaps. But then you have to go down the rabbit hole of, well, the process is the punishment. Most people simply can't just go to jail for, even me, 3 months, not that long. You lose your job, you go to jail, you be slandered in the media, you lose all your devices, you lose access to your bank accounts and all your money for 3 months, and you come back out. How are you paying the bills? How are you paying for your children? You think your wife's even still sitting there? Do you know how many people I heard on the phone screaming and arguing with their wives? All they did was use their phone calls arguing with their wives. And their wife, in her own female entitlement, because females are selfish, well, you're in jail, yeah, but I have, how can I pay the bill? I need this, I need this. Your man's in fucking jail, you're screaming at him to pay the rent? He can't. He can't. But what's she gonna do? She's gonna yell at him, or she's gonna find another guy and yell at him because she wants her bills paid. So it's crazy how most people don't understand how broken the justice system is. I don't know a better alternative. I'm not proposing one. I'm just saying that if you think you're going to go through life and if you ever end up in the justice system, it's all going to be fair and just and it's going to be fine, you're going to realize that it's nothing like you expect it to be. And you better hope you don't catch a case.
And when their wives and girlfriends leave them, you see them looking at the car park, hoping for a visit, and the visit never comes. And these guys are then just never the same. Some of them, they're broken.
It's amazing how, when you look at the differences in the sexes, how, and I don't have any scientific evidence for this, it's just my theory, but my theory is pretty simple, is that women are physically weaker than men. So they are obsessed with self-preservation. And they want to make sure that somebody is protecting or providing for them. They're very worried about being completely and truly alone in the world because they can't do it. So as a man, when you're no longer able to protect and provide, either financially or physically, a lot of your appeal to that woman vanishes. So she can love you. Of course, she loves you. But love is not unconditional, whether you're a man or a woman. That goes into something funny. A guy said to me only the other day, he goes, all these women only like you because you're rich and you're a kickboxer. I said, I only like them because they're pleasant and beautiful. So is love real? Or is it based on these conditions? If she only loves me because I'm famous and smart and strong and rich and tall and spontaneous and gorgeous with a long Johnson, if those are the only reasons she loves me, and I only love her because she does as I say and she's beautiful and she makes me happy, well, then both of us are operating on a conditional love, aren't we? That's what love is. And primarily, most men's condition for love is, I'll pay the rent, I'll take care of the family, I'll take care of you. If an intruder breaks in, I go downstairs. And that's all he really has to offer. He loses that when he goes to jail. And you'll often see, in my experience in Romanian jail at least, a lot of the times the men go to jail, not because of what they were doing with their woman, it's because of things they were doing with their friends or things they were doing by themselves. So the woman's on the phone, well, I told you to stop hanging out with those guys. I told you to stop going to clubs. I told you to stop this. You left me at home with the kids. You were out with those idiots. Now look, you're in jail. I didn't want you to go there. I tried to stop you. Who's paying my rent? Who's paying my bills? And they just turn on the dude. And you're right. They are never the same because women can make, call me a misogynist. Not the first time it's happened. Women can make anything about them. You can go to jail and your chick will be like, what about me? How do I feel in all of this? This is hard for me. It's like, I'm in jail. It's hard for you. I'm in jail. So you're right. And the gender dynamics come into play. And certainly you're absolutely correct. One of the few things that keep men sane in the places like that is the idea of their loving wife, is the idea of their visits. It's the idea of not being forgotten. You know, when I was in jail and they were putting on the news about me every day, all these lies, like they're doing right now. I was in jail yesterday, they put up all these lies. Andrew Tate is wanted in England for rape. Andrew Tate, 21 victims. All of that's bullshit, by the way. What has happened is that the UK government had a case with 3 girls, all actively working sex workers, by the way. Actively working. 3 girls who attempted to extort me for money, and the CPS closed it. And the UK has reopened the case from 2014. Now, there's all these conspiracy theories on the internet, and people talk about 21 girls and all this garbage. I've seen the warrant. 3 girls, seen the names, seen the thing. I've seen it. So it's the same garbage, bullshit. So the whole thing's a joke. But fact, we'll save that for later.
They tried to do the same with Russell Brand, and we supported him when he went through his thing. And that seems to have died down. And God bless him. He's got balls because he's just calling them out day after day now.
But that's what we have to do. We have to come out with truth and fight these people with the truth and make it clear that we don't believe it anymore. No man is safe from this garbage. The current case against me in the UK they just tried to extradite me for has already been rejected prosecution by the CPS. They reopened it because I'm famous. If that's not a Matrix attack, tell me what is. Tell me what is if that isn't. And it's the same 3 years. And I've seen the warrant and I have the paperwork. And in the end, God's justice will come. But just going back to men and their wives and the struggles in jail, the idea of knowing that you're not forgotten is extremely important. And the reason I say this is because yesterday when I was in jail, they were lying about me. Previously when I was in jail, they were lying about me. And the media is wall-to-wall coverage. But I said to Tristan, even though this is all lies, it makes me feel better. Because I think the worst thing that can happen to you in jail is to be forgotten about. There's some haters on the internet who dedicate their lives trying to take me down. Faceless autistic trolls, and they get false information and they spread it everywhere because they're idiots. But that is reassuring when you're in jail. Look, I'm still the center of their universe. They're still obsessed with me. I'm still the most important man in their lives. They still have no friends. They still have no girlfriend. They're still losers. This is fantastic. The people who were saddest in jail were the people who were forgotten. And when your wife leaves, that's, for many men, the final straw in the forgotten. That's it. Their friends have moved on. Their gangsters and friends from the corner have moved on. The prosecutors moved on. Their public defender doesn't answer their calls. One person left is their wife. When she moves on, they're just a ghost. They become, my brother and I called them the very unoriginal name, jail men. There was a guy in there who had been there for 17 years. His wife had left him 6 or 7 years prior. No money on his commissary, no visits. And I said, he's a jail man. Tristan said, yeah, he's a jail man. He's just a man in jail. He's a jail man. There's nothing on the outside for him. There's no life outside. He's just a jail man. And I think that your wife leaving you for a lot of these guys is, like you said, they look at the visitor car park and nobody else is coming. And if she ain't coming, that's it.
Yeah.
You have no link to the outside.
What is the procedure to have visits in your jail?
Well, the interesting thing about me is that for some reason in the Romanian judicial system, your prosecutor has to approve your visits. So I was declined every single visit.
What?
I was not allowed any visits.
No visits.
0. My lawyer could come, but we could only speak on a phone, and the phone call was recorded. Client privilege, whatever it's called, client judicial privilege,
client privilege
doesn't exist.
Yeah.
They listen to you and your lawyer's calls.
No.
They don't care. I wasn't allowed any visits. Of course, all my phone calls were monitored and recorded. And the only person who came to see me the whole time I was in jail was my lawyers. They would come and see me and we'd have our recorded conversation. And I could make phone calls from the jail. But they played very, very dirty with me from the beginning. I mean, at the end of the first month, I was hopeful to be getting out. Of course, I have a court date coming up. And by the Romanian law, they need a reason to extend. They need new evidence. They can't just keep you in jail. They need something to have happened. And I couldn't think what that could possibly be. And I was on the phone to my personal assistant, and she said, you have a doctor's appointment in Dubai. Are you going to come? And my answer was, if the judge allows me, I will come to my doctor's appointment, yes. When I got to court that day, the extension that was requested by DCOT to keep me in jail longer is that I was going to flee to Dubai. And then my conversations with my PA were all based around me fleeing and evading the legal system. Of course it says, if the judge will let me. Of course it says the doctors, etc. But they took it, they packaged it up, they twisted it, they got a prosecutor to stand there and say, they get some prosecutor to stand there. It's not my prosecutor, it's like a prosecutor for the state, who stands there and starts reading out all the cases of Romanians who got to Dubai and they couldn't get them back, how hard it is to extradite somebody from Dubai, how much money I have, how easy it would be for me to go, the fact that I'm Muslim, all my property in Dubai, basically saying, if you let him go, it's on your head. It's on your head. And he's talking about Dubai on the jail phone. Jail. And is that fair? No. Is any of it fair? I would like to ask about you and your prosecutor, because And before I do that, I'll tell everyone at home, because there's people on the internet who think they've seen documents about my case. My entire case is a lie. The translations are a lie. If my brother said, well, kick him out, they changed it to, well, kick him or kick him in the face. They lied. The conversations that they put together are a lie. They have a conversation from September and they delete a bunch till December and they put it together and pretend it's one conversation. It's a lie.
Hey, do you know what that sound means? Ooh, that's something I've been hearing a lot lately. I can't help but love that. That's what I hear when I make another sale on Shopify, the all-in-one commerce platform to start, run, and grow your business. Shopify is the commerce platform revolutionizing millions of businesses worldwide. The Pokemon business I've recently started with someone is absolutely thriving thanks to Shopify. Shopify accepts all kinds of payments, and sometimes it's complex when you get on a platform, but their dashboard makes it completely simple. Covering all your sales channels, from a shopfront-ready POS system to its all-in-one e-commerce platform, Shopify even gets you selling across social media marketplaces like Facebook, Insta, TikTok, and YouTube. Full of the industry-leading tools ready to ignite your growth, Shopify gives you complete control over your business and your brand without learning new skills in design or coding. And thanks to award-winning help and with an extensive business course library, Shopify is ready to support your success every step of the way. So when it comes to dealing with people all over the world, Shopify is absolutely enabling us to smash it with our Pokemon business. Before Shopify, our Pokemon card business was in the dark ages. It's time to get serious about selling and get Shopify today. This is Possibility, powered by Shopify. Sign up for a £1 per month trial period at shopify.co.uk/Shaun, SHAUN, all lowercase. Go to shopify.co.uk/Shaun, SHAUN to take your business to the next level today. Shopify.co.uk/Shaun. Link in description box below this video on YouTube. Thanks for watching. Back to the podcast.
The video testimonies from the girls who said, the victims who said they're not an organized criminal group, I'm not their victim, what are you talking about? The translation of the video, which is in a written statement, which is submitted to the judge doesn't watch the video, she reads the piece of paper, is all different than the woman actually said. It's literally criminal. It's literally all a lie. Everything is a lie. Everything you find on the internet is a lie. It's all a lie. All is a lie. And a day will come when this case is over where we'll show side by side for anyone who believed this shit. None of that is true. That is all a lie. This is what actually happened. Was your prosecutor pulling off similar moves?
I can attest, because I've seen people on the internet saying, look, it's here, this police report on Andrew Tate, so he must have done it. Prosecutors are the biggest clickbaiters in the world. In my case, we had over 100 co-defendants, over 10,000 phone calls. They took tiny little snippets of phone calls, took them to court, and portrayed me to be the Antichrist.
That's right.
Yeah, it's all theater.
It's all theater. And this is what's amazing to me. People say, have you seen the Tate indictment? Have you seen the edited version of events based on the last 10 years of my life put together by the people who have no problems lying, trying to put me in jail? Well, I'm sure that looks bad, but it's not real. And people are asinine and foolish to think that that's not how these things work, because you just nailed it. What prosecutors do is they lie by omission. By omitting parts of the phone calls, they lie. So there'll be a conversation where I'll say to somebody, hey, how are you? You better come over here. Why am I better? Because I'm hungry, I want dinner. Oh, okay, well, I'm in traffic. Okay, love you, hurry up. Boom. Example, right? They'll take, you better come over here. They'll get rid of the rest. Better come over here. Misogyny, threatening language. Boom, Andrew Tate's abusive. He doesn't respect women. He threatened her. Boom. They'll ignore the fact that we're saying we love each other. We'll ignore the fact she's asking me what I want for dinner and she's at the store. She said, no, they take that one snip and they put that one bit in the indictment, and then some jackass will read the indictment and go, look, this is a bad person. These people, what's amazing is you can either say these people are dumb, but I don't think they're dumb. I think they're just ill-intentioned, and it's convenient for them to pretend that it's true because it fits their narrative, right? It's the same with everything. Same like a prosecutor. He wants it to fit his narrative, and that's human nature. But the reality is different. And what you said is so true. It's so true because If you're a person at home watching this, and if you think a prosecutor isn't assigned to you and can't go through the last 10 years of your life and make you look bad, if you think you're living so pure, because people do, they go, I've done nothing wrong. I'm not scared of the police. I don't do anything wrong. Bro, you are ignorant. If they get their teeth into you, sir, and they go through every phone call you've ever had, every text message you've ever sent, everywhere you've ever been, they will find crimes and your indictment will make you look like the Antichrist. Fact. Nobody's safe.
They can criminalize anyone. One of my phone calls was I was asking a mate for the green drink. They said that was me running a operation, which I never did. I ended up pleading guilty to it. My lawyer said, just take it because it's less serious.
Wow.
But it's just Alice in Wonderland stuff.
And they don't care.
Because there's no consequences for them.
They
have absolute immunity.
That's right. There is no consequences for a prosecutor. So I think I pretty firmly understand that whoever assigned this Romanian prosecutor in an attempt to destroy my life, his intention was to steal the Bugatti and steal all my money. And he didn't care what piece of paper he needed to get that done. He didn't care how true it was. He didn't care how things had to be edited. He was uninterested. I need to get this done, so let's get it done. And it sounds like the American prosecutors aren't much different.
No.
And that's how this system works. And it's a broken system. And you're never going to truly know that until you experience it yourself. So the people who disagree with us are ignorant and perhaps fortunate. But if they ever catch a case, they'll learn very quickly.
Let me quickly give them a Googleable case. My lawyer, Alan Simpson, got Ray Crone, the snaggletooth killer, off death row. The prosecutor paid an expert witness $50,000 to say his teeth matched the bite mark on the corpse.
Wow.
And they knew that it didn't. It's so common in America now, it's called test delaying. They had DNA suppressed because it didn't match his.
Yep.
They had all the money in the world to put on their theatre show. They gave him $5,000 to defend himself, found him guilty. His mother almost had a heart attack in the courtroom. He was on death row for 10 years. My lawyer had to sue the state of Arizona to release the DNA. They didn't want to give it up because they would have to give him compensation. They were trying to execute him to get him out of the way. They didn't want to go to the victim's family and say, look, we've got the wrong guy. My lawyer sued the state of Arizona to release the DNA. It matched a predator who was in the system and he confessed to the crime and Ray was released and he didn't even get an apology.
Wow.
Bigger criminals in the justice system than the behind the bars.
100% fact. And that's a story which is truly not that uncommon. It's really not that uncommon. You know, I'll tell you a really quick story. Because, again, going back to my earlier point I said at the very beginning of this about being rational and non-emotional. My experience with the Romanian justice system has been one that has left me, to a degree, I respect it because I understand it. And the reason I'm going to say this is because I would liken the Romanian justice system to the justice system in many parts of the world, where they'd rather be far too harsh than too nice because they're trying to preserve social cohesion and they don't have the budgets that we have in the West. I think that if you look at the world, you always have to fear one of two teams. You have to fear the law or you have to fear the criminals. In the worst countries in the world, you have to fear both. So in America, you have to fear the criminals and the law because they're both out to get you. In England, I think you have to primarily fear the criminals. I think the law, you can get your way around and they can't screw you as hard as they could in America like you just described. But you do have to fear the criminals. When you walk outside of Harrods, the most expensive store in the world, you can be 2 meters away and they will rob you of your watch. They don't care. And that's because you don't have to fear the law. So there's a power vacuum. So in the worst countries, you fear both. But in most countries, you have to make some decision to fear somebody. Everyone talks about Japan, how great and how safe Japan is. Well, it has a 99.9% conviction rate. Are you telling me there's no innocent people in jail in Japan? Of course, the reason it's safe is because anyone who goes to court goes to jail. They don't care if you're innocent or not. And their view is very simple. We'd rather a few innocent people go to jail to keep faith in the system and to keep society safe overall than be completely interested in the individual liberties of one person. One person's not worth it. We could sacrifice an ant for the ant farm. And the Romanian system, considering this is the poorest country in Europe, is a very safe city, Bucharest. I can walk around in the middle of the night with $1 million watch on. I can't do that in London. I can do that here. It's actually very safe. Maybe you'll get pickpocketed, maybe. But you'll never get any violent crime. You'll never get robbed. Your car will not get stolen. I drove a $5 million Bugatti in one of the poorest countries in Europe. No problems. I left it on the street. Never got scratched, never got touched. I was in jail. There was a kid in jail. I said, what are you doing here? He said, I was looking in car windows. I was like, what do you mean? He goes, oh, there was a bunch of break-ins around this area, and I was looking in the windows. I was like, did you break in? He goes, no, I was just looking in car windows. Snagged him, jail. Don't care, jail. Did he do it? Who cares? Jail. He'll be out in 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, whatever. That's just how they approach their system. That's just it. If you go in front of a judge, jail, jail, jail. And that's how they keep it safe. So it's frustrating when you're inside of it. But when I'm outside of it, I'm kind of like, well, I guess I kind of get it. But then you're trying to look, and I've spent a lot of time actually doing this in my freedom, looking at a world map and saying, well, where do I not have to fear the law or the criminals? And I can't seem to find anywhere. So when you say there's bigger criminals inside the system, you're absolutely correct. And the hubris of a prosecutor, they would rather an innocent person lose their life than admit they made a typo. They don't care.
Because they have quotas, and if they can get a headline news sentence, they get promotions, they're running to want to be judges, political office.
My head prosecutor's been promoted.
Of course.
He's been promoted.
Yeah.
And my case isn't even over yet. So here we are. So I'm sure Tate brothers take him down. I mean, it is what it is. So I can be non-emotional about it, but you have to understand this is how it works. And I really find it amazing after the mass awakening, because I feel like there's been a mass awakening with certain elements of the Matrix. People now understand that the medical system, as you previously believed it, because of is a lie. And people now understand that the mainstream media, as you previously believed it, is all a lie. But they still don't have a lack of faith in other systems. If you don't trust the doctors, you don't trust the news, why would you trust the police? Why are they any more trustworthy?
Police never lie.
Of course not. They're not even, they're gods. They're humans. And I always use this analogy because it's a very simple one. If you don't have a referee in a basketball game, people cheat. In a simple basketball game, people will cheat if they can get away with it. So you're telling me in a system where a prosecutor has no repercussions whatsoever, and it's in his interest to put somebody in jail, regardless of whether the fact they're innocent or guilty. And even if he's a good-spirited, good person who doesn't want to put innocent people in jail, everyone around him is eclipsing him. And he's on the verge of losing his job because he doesn't put enough people in jail. You're telling me he's not going to bend a few rules? The whole thing is a joke. And the whole thing's a joke.
It's a scorecard. Have you watched The Bad Lieutenant?
No.
With Harvey Keitel. Oh, viewers got corrupt cops. All right. When did you first become aware that insects were in your cell?
I think it took me about 3 seconds. Yeah, you turn the light on. You turn the light on and they scurry. It's like the opposite of women. Usually they scurry to me. These must have been male insects. You turn the light on and they just...
So this is first day in the cell?
First day, first second.
Do you remember what time approximately you arrived?
I think that by now... So they raided my house at 5 a.m. The house search took 14 hours. Then we went through all the processing, etc. By now, it's nearly 24 hours. It's nearly 5 a.m. again. It's nearly 5 a.m. the next day. And I went in the cell. They put the light on, and I saw them all scurry to the cracks.
What size roaches were they? We had they were about that big, American cockroach.
They weren't huge ones. They're the little kind of skinnier ones like this.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly those. And they hide in these cracks. It looks like there's no crack at all. I don't know how they get in there. It's like they just vanish into walls. Like they can walk through walls, these things. So they all scurried everywhere. And I was kind of like, for the first half an hour, I'm like, I'll kill them all. I'll kill them all. So my cell's roach free. And then you realize, okay, they're living inside the substructure. Like this place is made of roaches.
They own the building.
They own the building. It's cockroaches and concrete. Like they're in the walls. They're in the ceiling. And when you turn the light off, you could hear them.
Shuffling, rustling.
Moving.
Yeah.
So I thought, let me leave the light on so maybe they'll be scared to like come out. And as I laid still, you close your eyes for a few seconds and you open your eyes to see, and they got braver and they started to come out again. And you just I just tucked my pants into my socks and put a pillowcase over my head and thought, I don't want to swallow any. That'll be adding to my problems. And then, and then you're just like, okay, well, and the first few days, I mean, I'm a man, but I don't like insects. I don't like bugs. I'm not a girl, but I don't like bugs. But after 4 or 5 days, you're kind of just like, hi, guys. You're still in jail, are you? What did you do? You just kind of get used to them. So one night, my brother and I, we went on a killing spree, and we filled up a plate. There was a paper plate. We had a whole plate full of them. And I did see a noticeable decline in roach numbers for a good 48 hours. But then they replenished. And I was like, Tristan, this is an unwinnable fight. This is unwinnable. So I'd spend, during my cleaning hours, I'd spend hours and hours with a bottle of bleach, because of course I'm the commissary king. I have unlimited bleach, unlike most people. So I'm going around every crack trying to bleach all the cracks. I feel like across the 3 months, I reduced the roach numbers by 30 to 40% with my bleach attack. If I was there for long enough, I might have got it down to some kind of manageable level. But yeah, you just have to go to bed and search your pillows and search your cushions and search your blankets and try and make sure they're not in your bed already, and wrap up tight and get used to the idea of roaches crawling on you in your sleep.
8 at night was lockdown, 10 was lights out where I was at, and they would line up in the cracks with their antennae sticking out like an army waiting to invade. Bro. And as soon as the lights went out,
yeah, they come out. Yep.
And I'm on this bunk, and my nose is like inches away from the wall, and there's a bracket there where they're coming out, and you can just, and that's when and then it's on the feet and the hands, and yeah, to this day, if anyone tickles my hands, I flinch. I woke up so many nights of them tickling my hands.
There was weeks, maybe even months, when I was at a jail, I couldn't lay in my bed without checking my covers all the time for roaches. And that's one of the things that stuck with me. And I went back yesterday, and it looks like, to be fair, it looks like they've improved conditions a little bit, but they were still there. And I think that was actually probably one of the most unpleasant things about jail was the insects. Probably one of the most unpleasant things is the simple insects, because there's also bed bugs in the mattresses and on the beds. So you have bed bugs, you have roaches. It's like a free-for-all in there. So yeah, that was upsetting. And I do think that contributed to a lot of the nightmares I had. It was weird because I didn't have nightmares in jail, but when I left jail, I started to have really bad nightmares. And I think a lot of them were related to the fact that I couldn't fully sleep, and I was constantly kicking and moving because I think it was looking for these insects on me. It's amazing how quickly you can get into some psychological state within a few months of dealing with this every night, that it messes with your mind. It's very interesting.
I had a limited amount of toothpaste, so there was a point where I cemented all of the cracks with the toothpaste, but then they called my name and rolled me up and moved me to another part of the jail. I had no toothpaste left.
Ouch.
And it was just massively infested. Did you think about trying the toothpaste or anything like that?
I never tried toothpaste. I was believing in the bleach. I was like, they can't like bleach. We're going to keep bleaching. So I stuck to the bleach system. And I also got very, very good at killing them. I mean, when Tristan and I were together, sometimes in the middle of the night when neither of us could sleep, 2 or 3 a.m., we'd say, you want to go hunting? All right. And we'd stand like ninjas with our sweatpants on and no shirts, like Aikido masters, in the middle of the cell. And we'd measure an exact arm's length out to the wall so we could punch at full force and not hurt our hands. And we just sit there in like the moonlight and just wait for them to crawl and snatch them off the wall. So there were times when it was almost semi-amusing, but it was a problem for the food, and it was a real problem to sleep. When I was awake, it was inconvenient, but when I was sleeping, it was terrifying.
Yeah, because they try and get in our ears to eat our earwax. Even if I had a flannel and I scraped my earwax out, they'd get on it on the flannel and they'd be like pulsing on it.
Yeah, they try and get in your ears, they try and get in your mouth.
Yeah.
I got a pillowcase. I'd tie a pillowcase around my head is what I was doing. And but the guards, the first time they saw that, had a panic attack, like I tried to kill myself or something. I'm like, guys, I'm just avoiding the roaches, it's fine.
Yeah, we'd mummify ourselves in sheets. And I had a neighbor who was asthmatic. He wakes up one morning out of breath, blasts a live cockroach inside himself. Oh. In the daytime, the prisoners were doing cockroach races, gambling on the winner. You catch a case. You got to live in harmony with your cellmates. You realize they own the building, make friends with them. You know, you just got to get on with it, haven't you, somehow? Otherwise, you're going to drive yourself insane.
Well, that's it. It's like the violence thing we talked about earlier. If it's a certainty,
yeah.
It's a certainty. So I did my best to mitigate the certainty. But yeah, you're right. You have to find the humor in it. My brother and I would enjoy hunting them for humor. And humor is a fantastic... I mean, it's probably one of the greatest things God has given humanity. I'm sure we could have built the world, perhaps, and done all of these amazing things without the idea of humor, without the ability to laugh. We could still function. but it's the ultimate coping mechanism is laughing. And my brother and I, we spent a lot of time laughing in jail. I'd actually argue we laughed more often in jail than we do on the outside. Yeah. Because on the outside, we're busy and we're working and we're doing important things. But in jail, okay, you're suffering, but how do you make yourself feel better? You just tell jokes, right? So my brother says he's a tough guy and for some reason it's funny, or you dance around the cell. Or my brother and I had another saying in jail. Tristan goes to me, he goes, you know, Andrew, this is a Matrix attack and we don't belong in here. I said, yeah. He goes, but think of all the things we've ever done. So what do you mean? He goes, don't you remember when I was 19 and those two boys came up to me in school and one of them said I was stupid, so I knocked them both out? I was like, yeah. He goes, was that really necessary? I was like, probably not. He goes, so we don't deserve jail for this, but all in all, fair enough? And I was like, probably. All in all, if you add it all up, I could have probably done with a little bit of jail.
And we try and accept our karma cheerfully. And I think one thing the viewers, perhaps we could explain to them, is every day in their lives they're thinking, I'm going to get this work done, what I'm going to eat for dinner, I'm going to watch something with my girlfriend tonight. All that goes completely out of the window, doesn't it?
Yeah.
As soon as you go through that door, it's raw survival.
Yep.
So how did that? It's like almost like you went into a state of relaxation. You say you didn't have your phone or whatever. You weren't doing your work.
Yep.
How did you find that difference?
You get a lot more thinking time, which I think a lot of people waste, and I wasn't there to waste it. But I did make some very clear observations. I noticed how much I am purposefully distracting myself in the outside world, and I think all humans do this. You distract yourself because, one, you have things to do, and two, if you start to feel an emotion or have a thought you don't like, you just instantly distract yourself. You get on your phone. If you're sitting there and you think of something sad, like you lost your parent and you think of it, the first thing you do, I guarantee within 3 seconds, is grab your phone and load up TikTok. And you distract your mind. Or you start working. Or if you think of someone, you call them. Or you text them. I need to talk to them about this. Okay. And you do it. Jail's weird because you have all these thoughts. You can't distract yourself. You can't action them. You can't talk to the people you're thinking about. And you're stuck with them inside your mind. So you have to become a lot more organized with your mind. It certainly is a mental exercise, which was very interesting. I had a lot of concerns for what was happening on the outside, more than my concerns for myself. I was very worried about the people I care about. I was very worried about my kids and my mother and their mothers and paying bills and is everyone else okay? I think if I knew everyone on the outside was 100% fine, and I did know that, but I needed to confirm it quite often. But if I knew that as like a decree, I think I would have struggled even less. I feel like we talk about the man saying he had problems with his wife. You're still a man. You still have masculine duties. The difficulty's just gone through the roof. You still have bills to pay. You still have to protect and provide for people. You still have to be the rock of the family. You still have to be all the things you were, but now you're stuck in jail. So it just amplifies the difficulty and the stress and the pressure. So a lot of my concern was for that, and I'd be sitting there and have an idea or have a thought in my head about what I can do about this person or that person or X, Y, Z, and I didn't have an ability to do anything about it, or I had to wait for 2 days till I had a phone call, and you're just stuck with these thoughts in your mind on repeat, which I guess is why people kill themselves, because they get a negative thought in their head and they didn't have the mental control to just get rid of it.
Did your mind start to review your life?
It did, and I came to a conclusion which actually was quite comforting. And I said this to Tristan. I said, Tristan, if you were to come to us at the age of 16 as nobodies in a Luton council estate and say that you're going to struggle in life and you're going to become kickboxing world champions and you're going to try your very best in lots of different things, but you're never going to rob any grandmas, you're never going to sell, guns, you're not going to commit. And then around the age of 26, 27, you'll start to make some money. And then you'll become multimillionaires, you'll become some of the most famous people on the planet, and you'll drive around in Bugattis, and you'll fly on private jets, and you'll do all these things. But at the age of 36, you're going to have to go to jail. At 16, would you have signed that piece of paper? And I said, you know what, I would have. Knowing me, I would have said, what, when I'm 36, I have to go to jail a little bit? Sure. How long for? I mean, it's turned out to be 3 months plus 5 months house arrest, blah, blah, blah. Will I probably go back for some years? I have no idea anymore. I have so little faith in the system. People keep asking me, hey, Andrew, what's happening with your case? I'm like, bro, I don't know. England tried to put me in jail yesterday. I haven't lived in England in 10 years. I don't have a clue what's going on anymore. And at a certain level of fame, the whole judicial system is only theater anyway. It's not real. It's all a big play. So, but would I have agreed to this life path? Probably. And I would have taken the highs with the lows. I've never been a coward. Would I have accepted higher highs to have lower lows? Yes. That's who I've always been as a man. I could have avoided all of these problems by not having a Bugatti and not going to jail and working in Starbucks.
If you're looking for a gift, my new book, Sit Downs with Gangsters, is available worldwide on Amazon. We've interviewed over 1,000 people now, and we selected 10 of the hardest hitting stories to go in this book. Each chapter features the story of one of our podcast guests. Those stories are Shane Taylor, Knife Maniac's Redemption; John Elite, Mafia Hitman for the Gambino crime family; Joey Barnett, 35 years in UK prison; Ian Blink MacDonald, £6 million bank robber; Chet Sandu, Asian smuggler in Spanish Supermax; John Lawson, the hit team commander; David Macmillan, international smugglers Thai death row prison escape; John Abbott, San Quentin prison shootout and escape; Michael Francis, Colombo crime family capo portrayed in Goodfellas; and Wildman, English enforcer in Arizona prison. Link in description box on YouTube, available worldwide on Amazon. Also, my next book, Untouchable Jimmy Savile, is getting published in December 2023. So check that out as well. It will be available worldwide on Amazon. Thank you for listening. Cheers.
But as I've said many times before, then all you're doing is burying your head in the sand like an ostrich, hoping that the matrix doesn't run you over. I have a lot of people say to me, Andrew, why do you fight so hard against the system? Because the system's coming for absolutely everybody. It's not just coming for me. It's coming for you as well. It's coming for every single man on the planet. This garbage they just hit me with, opening up cases from 10 years ago that have previously been closed to try and put me in jail because they don't like what I say, is proof in and of itself that any man with an opinion is not safe in the world anymore. Your ability to speak freely is directly correlated to your insignificance. And if people know who you are and you say the truth, not if you say bad things, if you say the truth, they will try and put you in jail. So you have two choices. You can fight against it and stand up and resist, or you can bury your head in the sand, agree with the garbage they put on the news, have a lackluster relationship, a woman who barely respects you because she wishes you were a warrior deep down, work a bullshit job, listen to the HR department, call everyone by their pronouns, and hope to be eaten by the alligator last. But you're going to die just the same. So I don't see the point in delaying the inevitable. What did I say at the beginning of this? If it's going to be a fight, I'm going to swing first. There is a war against free thought. There is a war against the basic tenets of masculinity. They're out to destroy anybody who thinks for themselves or has any semblance of manhood about him. And if that war is certain, which it seems like it is, I'm going to swing first. I'm not going to wait for them to sucker punch me. So the only way I could have not taken this deal and avoided jail was to sit there and be a coward from the beginning and then live a bullshit, mediocre life, which I think is a far more heinous punishment. The insignificance of being a normie and a brokey is far worse than being up here one day and down here the next, then up here again. Because I can deal with it all. I was in jail yesterday. And I'll be in jail again. And I'll walk out again. Head held. Might take a year. Might take 10. But I'm not going to sit and just do. You know how many people have messaged me since yesterday saying, Andrew, it's not worth it. They're too strong. They're too powerful. Just shut up. I'm like, I understand why, as a woman or a coward, that crosses your mind. But let me explain something to you. That doesn't cross the mind of a warrior ever. It's not an option on the board. We're playing chess. I don't think I wish my bishop could move that way, because it can't. Whether I'm winning or losing, my bishop operates in a specific way, and I can't make it do anything else. I'm not going to quit and start putting on a dress and talking shit for Globo to save myself going to the cell. I'd rather go to the cell and tell my cellmates why I'm there, because I told the truth and I caught another case.
Where does that noble warrior self-sacrifice side of you come from?
I don't even really truthfully see it as self-sacrifice. I just feel like God has given me this platform, and I like to believe, and I know this is incorrect, that if someone else had this platform, they'd do the same thing. But that's clearly not true, because you look at all the other people with platforms like mine and how quickly they've sold their souls. And if I were to sell my soul, then there's very little hope as it is. Am I going to cuck now? Am I going to give up? That's what they want more than anything. That's what all of this is about, to chop off the head of the general. They want to destroy my life to stop anybody else being brave. Remember that top G guy? He had it all going for him, didn't he? He had all that money, flying around the world, living on a yacht. Everything was fine for him. He spoke too much. Listen, you're doing well right now. It's not worth it. Look what happened to that guy. He's still in jail. That's what they want to do. I couldn't live with myself if I shut up. I couldn't look in the mirror if I am quiet.
But don't you have some trepidation about your 3 strikes theory? Because strike 1 and 2 have already happened, and the 3rd strike is the end, isn't it?
Well, maybe to make myself feel better, I've come up with this cope. But my 3-strike theory is correct. The first thing they do is discredit you and cancel you. The second thing they do is try and put you in jail. The third thing they do is kill you. As of yet, I'm yet to do a long stretch. So I feel like we're halfway through life 2. They'll give me 10 years first. So I kind of feel like I've still got life 2 kind of left. I've got things to look forward to. The cockroaches are waiting in a line with their antennas in the cracks for Top G to come back. So after my 10-year stretch, I'm sure I'm far more likely to get shot in the head. But for now, I thought my 10-year stretch began yesterday. I truly did. Yesterday was all about putting me back in jail. It wasn't even really about extradition. The UK government was saying, okay, we want him for this bullshit. We know you have a domestic case going on. So if he must stay in Romania, to make sure he doesn't avoid extradition, can you please make sure he stays in jail until he is extradited, which could be years. And the Romanian government declined and said, no, he's a free man until he is extradited. So a Romanian judge saved my life, effectively. But it's very interesting to be sitting in a room and there's people talking a foreign language and your life is being decided. And then I left jail. I left the courtroom, and I wasn't particularly positive or negative. I had absolutely no idea what even happened, to be honest, because I don't speak Romanian. And I don't know. I don't even know what was being said. And I walk out, and I look at the camera, and I smile, and I wink. And that picture's gone viral. That wasn't because I was necessarily happy. It wasn't because I was positive. That was because they don't want me to smile. The whole point of this is to humiliate me and bring me down. But I smile anyway. That's my resistance. My resistance is, ha, ha, ha. I'm still happy. If I go to jail, I'll dance around with my brother, and he'll call himself a tough guy, and we'll smoke cigarettes. That's what's going to happen. He's going to sit there and slick back his hair and say, I'm a tough guy. I don't care about it. I'm a tough guy. And we're going to laugh, and it's going to be stupid. And that's how you resist these people, because there truly is evil in the world. And we've just discussed in all the ways the system is broken.
So I corresponded with Julian Assange when he was in the embassy. Do you think that was a possible outcome for you?
Isn't Assange's fate being decided right now? They haven't decided formally and finally yet.
They're trying to get him to America, where he's never going to get out.
Yeah, I know. Bro, you know what the scariest thing about all of this stuff to me is? We've entered a new phase, and I feel like it was the death of Epstein that began this phase. They used to lie to us. The game used to be poker, where they would bluff, and they would lie, and you didn't know their cards. And using the MSM and keeping people deceived and using elements of deception, elements of confusion, conflation, lying by omission, keeping people divided, black, white, Republican, Democrat, etc. They could pretend their goal was not to enslave humanity and that they did care about the truth and you were free. But then they had to kill Epstein, which is a whole nother rabbit hole. And they knew that we would know that they did it. And I'm sure they sat there and had conversations and thought, we can't just kill him. He's in jail. They're going to know we did it. And eventually they said, you know what? They are going to know we did it. Let's see what happens. We ain't got any other choice. Just like I said earlier, if the outcome is certain, let's get it done. And they killed him. And they realized, oh, some internet memes. Is that it? Okay, well, let's change the game now. Instead of pretending we're not going to do these things, and instead of lying and going through all this garbage and pretending we care about freedom, why don't we just admit to everything we're going to do? And the game will change from poker to chess, because in chess, you can see what your opponent's going to do. The question is, what can you do about it? Everyone at home with a functioning mind now understands what they are going to do, what they are trying to do, and what they are currently doing. The question is, what are you going to do about it? What can you do about it? The lie's gone. The nice veil they put over it, the sugar coating, they f***ed that off. There's no more sugar coating on the poison. Now it's just poison. Now they'll sit and say, yeah, you talk against us, you go to jail forever. Yeah, so? What are you going to do? Yeah, the was bullshit. Yeah, the thing's poison. So what? Take it or you lose your job. They don't care anymore. So we've entered a new phase, which is scary, because when they were lying, you could kind of expose the lies as a weapon of attack. But now that they're no longer lying, how do you fight against it when they come along and say, yep, do it anyway? Yeah, but you're lying and you're Satanists. Yeah, we are Satanists. We just put that in the news that we're Satanists. There was a big party yesterday that we're Satanists. You didn't see the Satanist party? Don't care. Do it or you're going to jail. Now, how do you fight against you? You can't use the exposing of their lies as a weapon anymore. So you need a new weapon. And that's the pertinent question of the next 20 years. What is that new weapon? Because I see people exposing them on the internet, and I'm trying to do the same. And yeah, it's the right thing to do to try and wake up as many people as possible. We need a global awakening, of course. But they're not even really trying to hide it anymore. None of these Satanists hide they're Satanists. None of these governments hide the fact they'll lock your ass up if you piss them off. None of these people hide the fact, the feds don't hide the fact they'll take all your belongings and they'll raid your house and they'll destroy your life. No one hides the fact the justice system's broken. No one hides the fact the medical system's no one hides the fact the border is wide open. No one hides the fact there's illegal immigration. No one hides the fact that you can't afford food anymore. I saw Tyson Fury's Instagram post. I don't have Instagram, but I saw it on Twitter. And he was shopping with his wife, and they were making jokes about shopping and buying the cheaper things because he said, I just bought a Lambo. I should be cheap on the shopping. It was just Tyson Fury being funny. He's a big guy. He can fight. He's also funny. And he was talking about buying a discount chocolate spread because the Nutella was too much. And I was just watching this on Twitter half an hour before I got here. And it was £6.10 for a jar of Nutella. I'm a millionaire, and even I'm like, £6. That's not meat. That's not protein. That's not even real food. It's sugar. It's sugar condensed with flavoring. It's £6. You could live for a week. That's £6 is like $9-10. 20 years ago, you could go into a reputable store with $10 and buy eggs, rice, bread. You could live for a week. You can't even buy Nutella. They're not hiding the fact that inflation's out of control. They're not hiding the fact that the money's a lie. Not hiding the fact that the banking system's a lie. Not hiding the fact they're trying to put me in jail, opening up old cases that were previously closed. They don't give a shit. Now they're like, we don't have to go through all this boring hiding part anymore. How about this? We're going to all of you. We're going to use AI to enslave you all. By 2030, you're going to have no cash, CBDCs, an electric car, which is only allowed to operate in certain areas, a 15-minute city, and a d***o in your ass. And you're going to take it because you haven't got a choice. And I'm sitting here going, knowing that we have so few years left to even stand a chance of resistance, I guess this goes back into the thing we were talking about earlier. Can I be quiet? Could I live with myself in 20 years from now? I'll always be one of the rich guys. I'll always be okay. I'm in the top 0.01%. All the enslavement comes and it starts on the peons and the peasants. I'll be somewhere. I'll be relatively free. I'll have a nice house. They may be forcing everyone else to eat the bugs. I've had my time with the bugs. I'll have the ribeye. I'll be okay. But could I live with myself knowing I was so popular during this monumental and pivotal point in history and I didn't try and make people understand? Could I really look in the mirror? Could I raise my sons and say, you need to be a man of principle and honor? No, I couldn't. So all these other dudes out here might be, but if I have to go to jail forever, I'm going to go to jail forever because they're lying and they're evil and I'm going to say it.
Yeah, they're completely in your face. When I was researching my book, Who Killed Epstein, I found out that in that jail from the 1970s when it was started. Never have two guards simultaneously fallen asleep on the same shift and the camera's gone out at the same time. It's ridiculous. But going back to your sons, did it hurt that they couldn't visit you?
My children are quite young, all of them, and I don't think they truly understood what was going on between the ages of 3, 4, 5, whatever. They don't really understand completely, which I guess is a good thing. My lack of visits didn't really upset me that much. I mean, I wish I had visits to kill the time, to burn the time. But as long as I knew everybody was okay, I was okay. For me, it was more about making sure they were okay than anything else. I thought it was petty of the prosecutors to not let anybody come and visit me. But it's his prerogative, I guess. He enjoys it, I guess. But now I analyze it. If I could have taken visits, would have I even allowed my children to come? I'm not sure. Once I got things in a row, once I got ducks in a row, I felt much better. And everyone at home needs to understand that when you're arrested, quite often they freeze all your banks, they take all your money, they take your car, they take all your watches, take all your gold, etc. Whoever's left on the outside that you were previously taken care of is now financially destitute. And they do that on purpose so that you can't defend yourself and you can't afford a lawyer and you can't afford bail and you have to drag in other people and borrow money and just make a mess of everything. So that was a big mess for me to solve. And once I'd solved that, I felt a lot better. I'm not sure if I would have seen my children, even if I had the chance. I probably would have accepted visits from somebody else.
All right, even though that you didn't, you've got Tristan and Noah with you, that's boosting you psychologically. But the lack of contact with your other family members, did that sometimes create any low moments for you?
I'm very fortunate in the fact that I don't believe in depression. So because I don't believe in it, I can't be it because it doesn't exist inside of my realm. We talked about software. Well, imagine your mind as a chessboard. There are certain moves that can be made, and you don't often think about the moves that you can't make. If you're sitting there and the timer's on and it's your move and you're losing a game against a grandmaster, you don't sit and think, well, if a rook could do anything it wanted, where would I move the rook? You don't think that way. You think, what can I do within the confines and parameters of this game? And my mind software does not have depression built into it. So within the confines and parameters of my mind, I will feel the way which I think is most appropriate to the scenario. And I'm very fortunate that depression is not inside of my database.
Okay,
so I can't feel, I mean, do I ever feel low? I feel frustrated. I feel angry. I can feel constrained. I can certainly get a degree of anxiety due to a mental claustrophobia of parts, of types. Do I feel low? I don't feel low.
Forget the depression stuff. I'm trying to get into your heart.
I understand.
So for example, I've got a 6-month-old son. If SWAT team comes to my house tomorrow and I'm away from him, I'm going to start feeling it's going to
break your heart.
Yeah. Did you have that kind of a feeling?
It is, but perhaps I'm a weirdo, perhaps, but most of my feelings at the lower end of the spectrum all express themselves as anger. They're all anger. Like, if my heart is broken, I'm mad. If I'm sad, I'm mad. If I would be low, I'd be mad. It was like I was frustrated. It was all just one massive frustration for me. And that would absolutely break my heart. And I guess if I was there for years and years, I would have had to see my children, of course. But it was a frustration that I felt. And I famously said, tears ran down my face, but I did not cry. Because I was very, very frustrated. I felt stupid. It's kind of like if you try and do a crossword puzzle and you get stumped. And you're just like, and you feel annoyed at yourself, and the timer's on, and this word, and you've read the clue, and you know the word, but it's not coming to your mind, and you feel dumb. Or if you're trying to learn Finnish, another language, and they're like, okali gloopily gloopily, or whatever. That's what Finnish sounds like. And you can't quite say it, and you get mad at yourself. I felt frustrated. I was like, why can't I get out of this room? Like, what is going on? The door is there. There's taxis outside, and I live 20 minutes away. Why can't I get out of this room? Am I an idiot? Why can't I get out of this room? Because a prosecutor said I put a girl on TikTok? That can't be reason to keep me in this room. There must be a way out of here. That's how I felt. I was just flabbergasted and frustrated and not confused, but I couldn't accept this reality that I'm stuck in this room because of something so asinine.
Was that for the whole duration, or did that calm down?
That was perhaps the beginning when I felt best, because you can't be sad when you're mad. Perhaps some people can, but I can't, because you're ready to fight. And then about a month and a half, 2 months in, I'd been to court a few times. You know.
What's the protocol to go to court? Do they come and chain you up and put you in a van, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so you get a piece of paper saying you have court the next day. And then you go to sleep. You wake up, they knock on the door, they take you out, they put you in handcuffs, they search you. They come, they put you in a van, blues and twos through the city with the van. They come, they take you out in front of the whole media, they perp walk you, take you into this court, and then you have to sit and wait for your turn in the court. And often, sometimes that's hours. Romania has a whole bunch of files. I don't know what it's like in most judicial systems, but I understand the judicial system here is basically overloaded with files. It was kind of funny, actually. This was about 2 months in, and we found out we had court on a Monday, and I was sure we'd be getting out soon. I was like, Tristan, they've kept us here for 2 months now. Everyone doesn't believe it anymore. The internet's finally realized this was a scam. At the beginning, people are like, maybe, and they're 2 months in, they're like, this is bullshit. There's no growth. The news is even on our side. The Romanian news was on our side. Everything was on our side. I was like, bro, we're getting out on this court date. Tristan goes, nah, Matrix attack, we're not getting out. It's like, Tristan, I think we're going to get out. I have to be positive we're going to get out. And court's Monday. It's now Friday afternoon. We just have to get through the weekend. Monday, we're home. He's like, all right. So we're going to Aikido the weekend away. So that was the longest weekend of my life. I'm training, I'm cleaning, I'm bleaching the cracks, I'm doing all the normal things, but time is just not ticking because I had some hope for this day we were going to get out. Sunday night comes. It's about 9 p.m. Tristan goes to sleep because Tristan doesn't give a shit. He didn't care. And I'm laying there wide awake and I'm staring at the wall going, tomorrow morning's court. And I'd prepared a speech of what I was going to say to the judge. And I was practicing it in Romanian so I could say it in Romanian, because if I have to say it in English, I have to go through a translator, and the translator ruins all the emotion. They don't even understand what I'm saying. I'm sitting there, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. I'm still wide awake. Sitting there, 5 a.m., 6 a.m., couldn't sleep. Eventually, 10 a.m. rolls around. They come, they drag us out. Finally on our way to court, take us, put us in the police van. I get back to the police van with Tristan. I'm like, have you got your speech prepared? He goes, yeah, I know what I'll say. I was like, okay. Go there, get to the court, stand there, waiting like 2 hours in this alleyway, this hallway outside the court where the prisoners wait, and it's cold. It's January. It's freezing cold. They had no radiators. We're sitting there shivering, just waiting. Eventually, they take us into the court, and the person's case from before us was still going on as they sat us down. And it was a guy who got busted with a bunch of cocaine. And when they busted his cocaine, they also went in his house and found his laptops. And on his laptops, he had. So my man's in trouble. So I don't understand exactly what's being said because I don't speak Romanian, but I see on the projector kilos of cocaine, and I hear them talking about cocaine, traffic narcotica. Romanian's Italian. Romanian's Latin. It's kind of like Italian, the language. So I understand basically what they're saying, and they're talking about Kopi, et cetera. But Tristan speaks Romanian, so I lean over to Tristan in the dock, and I said, Tristan. He goes, what? I said, what did this guy do? And Tristan goes, Matrix attack. And for some reason, you know when you laugh in school and you're not supposed to laugh? For some reason, I just didn't expect him to tell me, because this guy who is guilty as sin with pictures all over it, Tristan just goes, Matrix. And bro, I was trying to hold in laughter like I've never held it in before. And the judge looks at me, stares at me deep in my eyes, and I'm like a dumbass. And I think she saw a fraction of a smile, and I'll tell you why. When they kicked that guy out, we had our shortest court day ever. We didn't even get a chance to talk, nothing. She was just like 5 minutes in, no, jail, bye. We went back. I was like, Tristan, I've been awake for a whole weekend. I couldn't sleep. I wrote a speech. I was dreaming of this day where we were going to get out, and you made me laugh with your joke and ruined everything. And he just goes, I'm a tough guy. It doesn't matter. I'm going to sleep. Didn't give a shit.
So people who've got that kind of charge, do they get dealt with?
Oh, they get dealt with.
Any stories?
The Romanian state hates drugs. They're big on drug crime here. If you get caught dealing with drugs or moving drugs around, you're in a lot of trouble. I think America can be similar, but England isn't so harsh. But here, if you get caught dealing with drugs, you're gone. Because drugs have not completely destroyed society yet, and they're trying to make sure it never does. So a lot of the people who are in jail are on drugs charges.
What about adults who harm women and kids in that way?
Yeah, so I didn't encounter any of them. There's none of this show your papers kind of thing. I didn't encounter any of them. I'm not sure if they're kept in a separate wing or anything. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know how it works in Romania, because although I live here, I'm not Romanian. From what I understand, and I could be incorrect, so please don't quote me on these things, but from what I understand, if harming children, of course, is highly illegal and you're in trouble. But I think domestic disputes, unless the woman is seriously injured, aren't punishable by jail. I believe, and I've heard, that if you're married to a woman in Romania, unless she requires hospitalization, the punishment for physical violence is only a fine. I understand. That's what they say. She's your wife and she pissed you off and you slapped her, so she's your wife. It's your problem. They don't care about that. So unless you kill a woman or mess with kids, then you're going to go to jail. But I didn't encounter any of them, but I don't know if they were kept in a separate wing for their own protection. I'm not sure. They might be.
Did you philosophize on time? And what I mean by that is everything takes hours or days, doesn't it? Versus you're in the free world, it's all like right now. You want to see a doctor, you want to, do this, get your commissary, hours, days. Did it teach you patience, perhaps? Did it slow you down?
I think it highlighted the inefficiency in most things. I mean, the prison system's not an efficient system, neither is the judicial system. It's not efficient. There's no motivation for efficiency inside of a judicial system. In a company, you optimize for efficiency to make money. Or in the outside world, you optimize for efficiency to save your own time. But why would a judicial system be quick? Unless, I'm sure they lock up people when they really have to, but in general, they don't really care. They're fine for it to be slow. Even currently now, I'm going to court. I still haven't got a trial. I'm still in the preliminary chamber. They're still deciding if my case has enough evidence to meet a legal threshold for charge. They might say there's no legal threshold for charge after 2 years of rooting my life and just throw the whole thing away. But sometimes I'll go to court and they'll go, oh yeah, okay, postponed. And they'll just delay it another 2 months. It's just crazy. So yeah, you do have to learn patience. But did I feel like things were happening slowly? Yes, but I feel like it just makes you more organized in some ways.
You wait half a day to go and see a doctor, and then there's a lockdown, and they send you back, and then you got to go back the next day, and it goes on and on and on, things like that.
But you don't value your time as much. So I kind of, but then saying that, I was very frustrated on court days, because on court days, my whole day would be wasted, and I had to still do my push-ups, and I still had to do my things, and I felt like I didn't have time in the day if I went to court. It ruined my day.
They woke us up at like 10 at night. We would go to court for the next day. So we've been holding cells all night, waiting for the judge the next day.
Wow.
But forget the cockroaches, forget the violence, forget the food, forget all that. The worst thing about being on remand is the uncertainty of not knowing what is going to happen to you. I was on remand for 26 months. It was like a vice tightening around my skull. Every month court, every month it's getting worse, every month court. The future of my life rests in the hands of the prosecutor, the judge, like 3 people, the rest of my life.
Yep.
And you're still going through that.
Yep.
It's like the sword over your head. How do you deal with that? Because forget the conditions. It doesn't matter the conditions. This is the worst thing. It drives people insane.
Absolutely, no doubt. You're completely correct. If they would have told me on my first day, you're going to be here for X amount of days, I would have been upset about it for about 2 days and then would have got on with it and enjoyed the experience of how long I'm going to be there. But when you're there and they go, oh, you might be out next week. You might be here like that guy for 7 years. You're like, what? How can I plan for this? How can I prepare for this? How can I prepare financially? How can I organize my children's schooling? How long am I going to be here? And it is that uncertainty which certainly can absolutely eat you away. And I feel like that's why I started to feel better during Ramadan, as crazy as that sounds, because although I've been in jail for longest by this point, I started to fast and I was reading the Quran and I was praying, and I felt strength in understanding that none of this was up to me anymore. And coincidentally, I was released pretty soon after. But that uncertainty, which is I'm still living through right now. I mean, I got dragged from my house 36 hours ago and spent 24 hours in jail. Now I'm released. I have no idea if I'm going to wake up tomorrow in my bed or in jail. I might leave here and go back to jail. It's extremely scary. And it does give me urgency with some things. It also gives me very little patience for other things. You know, like if somebody wants to be negative, or if somebody wants to start an argument with me, or somebody is picking on me or being rude to me, I'm like, do you understand the pressure I'm under? What are you complaining about? What are you I don't have the patience anymore. I'm going to end up catching another case for someone pissing me off when I'm trying to think about my real case. So yeah, it's scary. Most people have no idea what it's like to live under that kind of pressure.
Whenever I complain about something, my partner says to me, Shaun, you were facing 200 years.
Yeah.
How can you complain about this? But on Rob Moore's podcast, you said you were expecting a UK indictment. Earlier today, you said you've steeled yourself to do a 10-year stretch. Have you adjusted your expectations so if that does happen, then you're ready for it, would you say?
Well, I guess this all goes back down to what we were saying at the very beginning about governments and law. If law is real, the chance of me going to jail is zero, because I'm innocent, because the indictment's fake, because the evidence is fake, because the translations are fake, because the accusations in the UK are garbage from 12 years ago with no medical evidence, no pictures, no videos, nothing. If the law is real, my chance of going to jail is zero. Then you have to ask yourself, is the law real? Is the law fair?
Is the law Alice in Wonderland?
Well, absolutely. Then you have to analyze even deeper. Like we talked about Japan earlier. And I'm not insulting the Japanese. I'm just saying how their system works. Would the system allow an innocent man to go to jail to restore faith or to prove a point? Or like, do they care more about my freedom, or do they care more about the optics of being right and teaching me a lesson? What's really their concern when they go to bed at night? They don't give a shit if I've done it or not. They don't care if I'm innocent or guilty. They don't care. Loads of innocent people go to jail. So why not this high-profile innocent person go to jail? Teach them a lesson. Teach everyone else a lesson. Tell them not to get too big and talk too much truth. None of this is about what's happened. The people who are obsessed with my case are actually very small thinking. People say to me, oh, but what about the case? I'm like, you are focused. I'm pointing at the moon and you're staring at my finger. You're missing the heavenly glory, as Bruce Lee said, because you're obsessed with my finger. You think this is about a human case because you're a dummy. You're a dumbass. It's about the moon and the stars. It's about how the world functions. It's about the fact that war has never been anything other than the ability to influence minds. The reason they roll tanks into a certain geographical area is so they can gain control over the media, over the money, over the ability to school those children, to control minds. That's why the MSM exists. That's why it's free. That's why they pump it everywhere. They need to control people's minds. So if someone like me can affect the way people think, I am a combatant in a war. That's what this is about. This is not about human or an indictment or some girl lying about being. That's all the dumb shit they're using to distract the peons and peasants and idiots at the bottom who think that's how the world works. That has nothing to do with it. It's about the solar system. And my only hope, irregardless of whether I'm successful in proving to the world that I'm innocent, or that they matrix attack me and screw me over. My two hopes are, one, that everybody at home knows I'm innocent, and I feel like we're almost there. 95% of people know that this is bullshit. Even if they convict me, they're going to say, no way. What financial motivation would a millionaire have to start stealing money from TikTok accounts of girls at the age of 35 when he's already rich, and the girls themselves said he didn't do it, and TikTok doesn't even pay you money? It doesn't. It's the biggest Matrix attack. It's crazy. Anyone who believes it probably also believes in getting their 19th. Fine. Those people are lost. They're broken. But my only hope is that people know it's a lie. And two, if I am martyred, I hope it at least awakens people. I hope it accelerates people understanding how the matrix works and how these power structures work. Because the only true guarantee of power is that one day you're going to lose it. If you're at home and you're watching this, you may have a woman who does everything you say. One day she'll say no. And you may be the boss. One day you won't be anymore. The only guarantee of power in this world, God has ensured that one day you're going to lose it. And they have all the power right now. But I feel like power is a very difficult thing to wield because power works until you use too much of it. If there's a protest in any city in the world, they deploy the riot police. And the riot police contain the protest. If the protest continues to grow, the riot police come and they use the water cannons. And if it continues to grow, eventually the riot police in many countries are ordered to fire on the civilians. Once they do that, every single time, civil war. And every single time the power changes hands. If you use too much power, you awaken people to the fact that you can't be trusted with power. If they lock me up, they're just going to awaken to the world that they can't be trusted, that no man is safe under the legal system, that you're not safe to ever have had any sexual partners or encounters in your life ever. You're not safe to have an opinion. You're not safe to tell the truth and stick up for your children. All they're going to do is show their cards that they're deceitful, satanic liars. So if they put me in jail, that is going to be a problem for them. Not just me, for them. Now, in their hubris and arrogance, they don't care. They don't see it that way. They're like, yeah, it'll be fine. Lock him up. But I truly believe if they lock me up and the details of all the mistakes in my Romanian case, of the profiles of the active sex workers who are lying about me in England, if all of this starts leaking and they put me in a cell for it, the faith in the justice system will plummet to brand new lows. And that comes with its own host of problems. The only reason we live in a civilized society is because people believe in the justice system. Something goes wrong, you call the police. The police will fix it. Once people realize that's all, what comes next? Mad fucking Max. You add that in with the fact they're trying to come and enslave us all and make the justice system more powerful than ever before. Well, if you're trying to increase your power levels over the populist government, you need people to trust you. Eroding their trust in a desperate, infantile attack on me, lowly Andrew Tate, is going to make your mission far more difficult to achieve. So I'm kind of in the position where my enemies can do very little but immortalize me. I may go to jail. I may not. I'm immortal if I do. I'm immortal if I don't. I'm immortal if you put a bullet in my head. In fact, the harder you punish me, the quicker you're going to lose your grip on power. So God has put me in a very fortunate situation, and all it takes is for me to have huge balls and to not be a bitch. And as my brother would say, quite pertinently and astutely, to be a fucking tough guy. So that's what I'm going to do.
Andrew, I wish you all the power of Bruce Lee, the moon, the universe, taking down these reptilian, shape-shifting, lizard conscious fucks. Give me a grabber. Thank you for your time today. Absolutely brilliant, man. Nailed it. Well done. Brilliant. Yeah. Good luck to you.
I kill you! Yeah! A knife and a cosh and all that, like, yeah! And he's looking at me, and we went white, and then he's gone, like.
What is it about a tough guy that fascinates us?
Imagine I'm hearing that, I'm thinking I'm not going down today. If I go down today, I'm dead.
We're bringing you the very best of our interviews with Britain's hardest men.
They made the mistake of bringing billy clubs, iron bars and knives to a gunfight.
No Rules Fighter Bash, Stephen the Devil French, and my best friend, Wild Man. Over 2 hours of terrifying tales of punch-ups, stabbings.
That's what happens in that world. You leave people long enough, they get enough rope to hang themselves.
Attempted murders and exceptional all-round hardness. If you're looking for a gift, my new book, Sit Downs with Gangsters, is available worldwide on Amazon. We've interviewed over 1,000 people now, and we selected 10 of the hardest hitting stories to go in this book. Each chapter features the story of one of our podcast guests. Those stories are Shane Taylor, Knife Maniac's Redemption; John Elite, Mafia Hitman for the Gambino crime family; Joey Barnett, 35 years in UK prison; Ian Blink MacDonald, £6 million bank robber; Chet Sandu, Asian smuggler in Spanish Supermax; John Lawson, the hit team commander; David Macmillan, international smugglers Thai death row prison escape; John Abbott, San Quentin prison shootouts and escape; Michael Francis, Colombo crime family capo portrayed in Goodfellas; and Wildman, English enforcer in Arizona prison. Link in description box on YouTube, available worldwide on Amazon. Also, my next book, Untouchable Jimmy Savile, is getting published in December 2023. So check that out as well. It will be available worldwide on Amazon. Thank you for listening. Cheers.